Hi, this is Eric from longboxreview.com. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the January previews episode. And joining me, as he always has been recently, is George from the still defunct George and Tony Entertainment Show. And special guest, it is Damian, Sleepy Reader 666 himself from the famous YouTube channel. Welcome, gentlemen.
I am very glad to be here. Oh, go ahead, George. Sorry.
No.
I'm very glad to be here. I consider myself this show's biggest groupie. I bombard you guys on Twitter saying the show should be even longer.
Yes, I think, Damian, that's probably the only time I've ever been told that I should have a show longer than I do. So that was a nice bit
3
of
hours. It's not enough of George and Eric.
3+ hours sometimes.
That must be a long commute that you have or something.
Well, it often took me most of the week to listen to the show.
Okay, good.
Because you can only listen in small doses, is that right?
Mm-hmm. Well, it was 25 minutes one way, 45 minutes the other, so I could get quite a bit in each day.
Well, good. That's good. Well, I hope that's exactly what service that George and I are bringing to the comic book community. Get you at least to work and back from work, and who knows what else. So, but I'm very pleased to have Damian join us here, just to have a little bit more fun and shake things up a bit. Speaking of shaking things up, George, I think you have a surprise for us.
Well, I have a question for both of you. So first of all, Damian, it's nice to meet you.
Great pleasure, George.
And I do have to say, I love your show, Never Stay Dead. You and Matt do a fantastic job.
Yes, my podcast with my partner, Matt.
Yes, Thank you. I have to say, not enough.
Yes, very much.
Can we get some more Never Stay Dead in 2019?
We've recorded 2 episodes yesterday or the day before. I just need to edit them a bit.
Okay.
So
we're all looking
there will
forward
be
to
more. And hopefully we'll do it more frequently this year.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree with that.
And as I'm giving the compliments out, Eric, I have got to ask, because I'm always interested in what you have to say about comics and life in general. What the heck is this super blog team up that you keep tweeting about, that it's such a tease that I don't even understand it? Is it a secret in some way?
It is not. Actually,
okay.
by the time that people will be able to listen to this episode, the Superblog Team Up event will be going on. So next Wednesday, so at the time of this recording, it is January 17th, 2019, and on January 23rd, 2019 will be this year's, or at least the first of this year. I'm not sure how many that Chris plans on doing, but there will be the Superblog Team Up, which is just a bunch of different people who will be joining this team up. So it's a bunch of different blogs that people can go read around the theme of redemption. And so I was very, very nicely asked if I wanted to participate this year for this particular event, and I wholeheartedly said yes, because I've read other Superblog team-ups in the past. Peter Rios, my Legion Project podcast co-host, has participated in these in the past as well. And so I knew of it, and I've enjoyed them, and now I'm honored to be a participant in the blog. So everybody who's listening to this in the future next week, please be aware that the Superblog Team Up is out and about, and people should go read those. And you can just go to longboxreview.com, look for the Superblog Team Up post, and you can find out more about the other posts as well.
So you're saying we have to read?
You have to
Actual
read.
reading.
Yes.
You're
without
giving
pictures.
us homework?
Oh, no, there will be pictures, Damian.
Oh, phew.
No, not comics,
right.
but, well, actually, no. I'm not making a comic, but there will be images from comics as part of this post. So,
all right, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
All right, good. So put that on my list. I will have to read. next Wednesday. Okay.
What are you talking about, George? You read comics all the time.
True. Yes, you are correct. I guess I shouldn't complain in any sort of way. Now, before we get into previews, as usual, I always have to derail us in some way. So, Damian, I apologize. Since you've never done this with me before, this is unfortunately the way it is. Wait, did he just turn off my mic? Hello? Is this thing on? Hello? Okay. Yeah. Now, I got to ask you guys something. And since not only do I want to ask you guys, I want to ask your listeners, Eric. So that's why I didn't ask this question before the mics went hot. Have either of you participated in any sort of book club before, whether it be comic book related or prose?
You want to go first, Eric?
No, you go ahead.
Okay. I have participated in a couple of different book groups. The most successful one was one that was mostly female, and my wife and I were members of it, and it lasted for many years. We once read something they claimed was a graphic novel, but to me it was not. It was just words and pictures, but not connected enough.
What was that?
And did you enjoy it? And did you enjoy the book club experience?
I did for several years, and then at some point I got tired of having to read books picked by other people. It's sort of the double-edged sword. You get to enjoy books with other people, but you only get to pick the book maybe once a year, or twice a year perhaps. And I think Eric was asking what the pick book was. It was some book about Marie Curie, which I think was kind of a notable book at the time, that with a lot of pictures and then a lot of text about Marie Curie. But they thought it was a graphic novel. I did not.
Well, you would know.
What about you, Eric? You ever participate in a book club before?
Yeah, I've tried them off and on throughout the years. Never to the degree that Damian has. The book clubs that I participated in, maybe I lasted a few months. It was kind of like what you were saying, Damian. People would pick these books, and I had all these other books I wanted to read. And on top of that, I think we were just too aggressive. We wanted to read a book a month. And I just ran out of time. I couldn't keep up with it. And it's unfortunate because there was a few people in the book club that I found very interesting, their perspectives and whatnot. And they actually let me pick a graphic novel. Unfortunately, the day that I was supposed to host the graphic novel discussion, I could not make it. So I have no idea how the discussion went.
That's almost tragic.
Yeah.
Isn't it though?
What about you, George?
The reason I ask is I attended my first one ever, no matter what type of book it is. It happened to be a graphic novel book club, but I've never gone to any sort of book club before. So the book that was assigned to us, and unfortunately you guys can't see me, so just like the listener right now, if I held up the book, it wouldn't matter because no one can see it. But it was Krampus, which was a series of issues that came out under Image from Brian Jones, Dean Kotz, and Ron Riley, and it came out about 4 or 5 years ago. So we read the collected edition trade paperback of Krampus. I enjoyed it. I didn't take notes per se, but I had some thoughts in my mind, and I was all ready to go. And this book club has existed, I think, since the summertime. So they've only gotten together 6 or 7 times before themselves. But from what I understand, after joining the club, was this book was the first book that, on a whole, nobody liked. And nobody really had much to say about it past the fact that they didn't like it. Now, being my first book club experience, I was all ready to go to talk and engage in ideas. And I found it a very funny graphic novel. There was a lot of satire in here, a lot of parody. And I just found it a fun romp. I think they were expecting a dark read. And when the darkness wasn't really there, disappointment set in universally among them all. But their next book that they're going to do will be the first 2 volumes of Saga by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. So knowing that, I asked the question after all was said and done. And again, we really didn't talk so much about the book as much as what was coming up or what did everybody do around the holidays. I asked, how do you guys handle a book that you know really doesn't have an end? For instance, Krampus, well, had a little bit of a cliffhanger. It had a beginning, a middle, and an end, a first, a second, and a third act. As we all know, a book like Saga, while each volume has an end, they probably all have cliffhangers, I would guess. And it's all part of a greater narrative. So books 1 and 2 might be the first third of what might be considered the first act. I don't know. But I wanted to ask them, how have they approached in the past a book that they know doesn't have an end? How do they tackle that? And I think the group took that question as a critique of the book club itself.
Oh, no.
And so then I got an explanation as to how they picked books, why they picked them. Some people tried to give me an education about comics in the first place. And then I realized, did I get totally misunderstood, right? So I tried to defend myself a little bit, or tried to defend might be a bad word. I tried to restate my question, I think. But I think I just dug a deeper hole for myself. Now, what makes this worse is they live streamed this for the club. So people who could not attend could watch it live, and it's there on the closed group. I think it's a closed group. I would never point anybody there because I don't even want to go out there and watch this video, because I probably do sound like the curmudgeon who was doing what they thought I was doing, critiquing and maybe even saying bad things, when in reality, I was just really asking about the book club and what to expect. So I was just wondering about your experiences and how deep do the conversations get in a book club when people have a lot to say about the book? Can you sit there for about an hour? If you have a book that people have a lot to say, I mean, are the conversations in your experience, have they been interesting enough and meaty enough?
In my experience,
maybe after you left the club?
In my experience, the longer the club was together, the more it became a social group and the less it became a book group. Just because we all became good friends. And sometimes half of us didn't even read the book and we came anyway.
Oh, no, that sounds like that sounds like high school.
But I also think it can vary widely on the book. Sometimes people just can't find much to say, and sometimes it generates conversations. And sometimes it generates great digressions onto other subjects, which I know you like digressions.
Of course, I do. I live for it.
But the dynamic of each group is obviously going to be different. It sounds like they're a little bit sensitive. They feel like they're being criticized easily. So that sounds a little tricky.
I look forward to going again. Now, these are people who go to the comic book store that I go to, Comic Logic in Ashburn, Virginia. So I've got my little bell here. Every time I mention Comic Logic, an angel gets its wings. But I only know them, we're all just acquaintances. And some of them don't even recognize me because I don't see them all the time. But they, I was kind of hoping, you make some friends, you bond over a common book thing. But realizing I was the only one who liked this book, boy, I should have just kept my mouth shut and let them talk about what they did for the holidays.
Well, that's too bad.
Tricky.
Well, I do intend to go back. One of the things about Saga in particular is I have made the conscious read anymore until it's done. So everybody was like, oh, but I have so many other books to read. And my problem is I can't blame it on old age. My reading comprehension is fine. It's my reading retention that stinks. So a great distance in between issues or books does make me have the need to reread a lot. And I don't have a lot of time to reread because there's a lot of other things to do and there are a lot of other books to read. So that's I committed the faux pas of mentioning that during the book club too. So if they let me, I'll probably go back for another sitting.
Maybe try to stay positive for a meeting.
Yeah, these are the guys that run
All Star
Comic-Con. Yeah, I know, right? This is the All-Star Comic-Con film book club. And Eric, you may remember last year we were talking about All-Star Comic-Con. Mm-hmm. Well, this year they have more comic-related guests.
Oh, good.
So if you sign up to the DC area, you might want to think of that first weekend in June because, well, it's the 8th and the 9th, so I guess it's the second weekend in June. But they've got Mike Zeck from Secret Wars.
Sweet.
They've got Gail Simone from pretty much everything. They got some guy named Tom King and an artist named Clay Mann coming. So that's pretty cool stuff. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, so they've actually got some good comic folks coming.
Well,
they had Jason Aaron last year, so I'm not saying they didn't have good guys last year, but I mean they've got more this year. Yeah,
George, I would love to say I'll be out there, but I'll be traveling some other place at that exact time, so I'll miss that.
Okay, more to come on that later.
I'm sure some future episode of the Gutters, I'll be talking all about it.
Gutters episode. All right, Damian, looks like it's just you and me.
Eric on the road. We'll take over Long Box Review.
There you go.
Damian, want to come on out and bring Matt?
There you go. There you go. So speaking of book clubs, so we kind of have our own little book club here going on, just the three of us and all the listeners out there.
Right.
Because we are here to talk about the previews catalog. This is the January's preview catalog, like I said, for things starting to ship in March. And this is, I believe, gentlemen, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the first time this year that we get to see the free comic book day stuff.
Yes.
So I thought we might want to start there and maybe highlight some free comic book day offerings that we're looking forward to.
I will let you guys handle that. I didn't actually look in that section.
Okay.
Damian, are you primarily a digital guy, or do you actually have the physical previews tome in front of you?
I have the physical previews tome in front of me. So I'll glance through as you guys, you'll hear me flipping the pages.
Yeah, same here.
Well, I'll get it started. Yeah. So the first thing that I just wanted to point out, and this is just because I have been enjoying The Wrong Earth from Ahoy Comics. They are offering Dragonfly and Dragonfly Man this coming May. So we get to see. I think it's an all new story for this.
What page is that one?
This is on page 36.
There it is.
And then we also get some other things from other comics, the Captain Ginger and Edgar, there we go, Allan Poe as well. So we get a bunch of different things from Ahoy Comics for Free Comic Book Day. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Do you get your free comics through the discount comic book service that mails you comics?
They do offer I think five or seven. I can't remember what it is now, but yeah, they offer free comic books through their service, which is kind of why I wanted to mention this, because I think this is probably when they'll put them on there. I'm not sure. It might be next month, but
right. You need to look over this and figure out what you want.
I'm always surprised whenever I go to make my order, whatever month that is, and then suddenly I have to very hurriedly have to make decisions. Because I haven't really considered the free comic book day offerings.
I often go into the store and find, the ones I wanted to get aren't here.
Yeah, there's that.
Oh.
So it's nice in a way.
Do you have a store near you, Damian?
Does Damian have a store?
I have 3 stores within walking distance of my house.
He lives in like the mecca of comic book.
Are you exaggerating?
So no, I'm not exaggerating. So I could potentially go to about 14 different stores on Free Comic Book Day if I had the will. I tend to burn out after about 2 or 3, actually.
Man, there was one year where we talked about it. I don't know which show, what episode number, or anything like that. But I went to go see my nephew in Pennsylvania, and while they're not in walking distance, he has a lot of stores within, say, a 30-mile radius of his house. And I think we hit 4 or 5 of them. The first store we hit was the only store that lets you get all of the free comic book day items that were offered if you wanted them. But they actually did not set a limit, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's unusual.
It is very unusual because all the other ones, could only get 2, and then if you made purchases based on your purchases, you could get maybe 1 or 2 more. So they ran the gamut from being, really stingy, which is understandable because they have to pay for them, to very open with their books. In the case where they offered them all to you, they had bags already ready to go. So my nephew, I think, took one of those bags, and not, again, knowing they have to pay for them.
Right. Some of the stores around me will have such long lines that I'll go later in the day, which is part of why I often don't find what I was looking for, I suppose. Yeah, but over the years, I've become less excited by Free Comic Book Day because usually it's reprints. I mean, occasionally there's some important book that I miss, and I go, darn, I wish I'd gotten that. But a lot of the
they have changed how they do things over the years.
So
but
what else?
You shouldn't sleep on the Dark Horse item because while Stranger Things might be on the cover, there's going to be a Black Hammer story in there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, that's on page 33.
Oh, yeah. I missed that one. So thank you, George.
Yeah, they sneak those in there sometimes, that second story.
And sometimes they do them as a flip book with a cover for one on one side and a cover for the other on the other.
Exactly.
Yeah, see, that was my problem. I was just scanning the covers, saw Stranger Things, and just passed right over that one.
Yeah. Well, I really want this one. It says, Madame Butterfly takes the reader on an EC-style tour through her mysterious cabin of horrors to witness two groups of brand new heroes from the past. So that sounds like something I don't want to miss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also new.
Any others jump out at either one of you?
Yeah, I was going to say also new material is this offering from Humanoids. It's the H1 Ignition free comic book. So Travis and I had talked, I think, some time ago about the new imprint, the superhero imprint from Humanoids. And so this is the first offering of that. And you get people like Mark Waid, Yannick Paquette, and others offering some stuff here. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that's all about.
Yeah, that definitely seems like a top of the list one too. Yeah.
I always have to get the Tick from New England Comics. They're on page 41 by Ian Nichols.
Yeah, the
always
10th.
Does some good work there for.
This is what puzzles me sometimes about New Comic Book Day. Is there an ongoing Tick comic to pick up if you like that one? I'm not aware of it.
No, you're right.
So sometimes I'm not quite sure the point of. I mean, I'm glad to get the comic book, but why they're promoting something that's not an ongoing comic is sometimes puzzling to me.
It just makes it more special.
They had one for a while, but just kind of petered out. Yeah.
Sometimes it's because they're trying to sell graphic novels, I suppose.
Yeah, there are a bunch here that interest me. Like, for instance, here's one at page 42 from 2000 AD. The Treasury of British Comics presents funny pages. That looks like it could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that looks quite interesting. Well, see, now you guys are getting me more excited for Free Comic Book Day than I usually am.
Cool.
Our job is done.
That's our job.
All right.
Do you guys ever get any of the other the merchandise items or no? When on Free Comic Book Day?
Oh, you mean like what, toys and shirts and stuff?
Well, I mean, like this year they've got a John Constantine Funko. They've got 2 Tiki versions of Superman and Wonder Woman. A Spider-Man PVC statue, all on page 45. I mean, they cost money. I mean, they're not going to be free, but I guess just like a convention will have an exclusive item.
Right.
Free Comic Book Day has these
Free Comic Book
items.
Day. Yeah.
Yeah.
If they had a Tiki...
Did any of you guys bother with that or nah?
If they had a Tiki Robin, Tiki Dick Grayson, maybe someone would be interested.
Yes, I might be interested in that.
Yeah, maybe.
But generally, no, Damian, I don't bother with that stuff. Yeah. Although that Spider-Man PVC statue looks kind of neat.
It does.
I have resisted collecting toys because that just seems like a giant abyss I don't want to go down.
I don't have room for all that stuff.
That's right. Well, the last 2 years they had these DC Bombshell little not Funko. Well, I guess maybe Funko made them, but they were in the. I don't know. They had kind of like the baby young kid eyes, and they were small and squat, and they came in these little plastic containers. They were pretty cool. The first year was Wonder Woman, and last year was Harley Quinn. So those were good. I got those, but again, they are dust collectors, so
yeah, exactly.
Can't really do much with them. Yeah.
All right.
I wonder if I would get a free Comic Book Day T-shirt if I happened to see it at a store. I don't know. Maybe. Those look kind of cool. It's on the page after those Funko things.
Yeah, done by Derek Charm this year.
Who I'm not familiar with.
And even the generic ones, the generic ones that just say the first Saturday in May. I mean, those are always good. I mean, I think they're relatively cheap.
Mm-hmm.
You can order them through your comic book store.
Yeah, Derek Charm is the artist for Star Wars Adventures from IDW.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything else for the free comic book day?
He's I don't have any. My nephew Frankie's in college now, so when he was younger, it was kind of cool to try and do it with him. Now I've got another nephew who's young and a niece that's young, and they're the perfect age for free comic book day. Just going in, and even if they're not interested, everybody's they're top players that go over to Comic Logic. Oop, I mentioned their name again.
It's like Christmas.
You know, I get no extra comics in my box.
No compensation.
People yell at me at the book club. I get no respect. I get no respect. So I just want the angels to get their wings. That's all.
All right. Shall we?
Ready to move on?
Yeah, I was
or
gonna say,
is there anything else, Eric, that you had tagged in the free comic book day?
Nope. That was it. George took my last one with the Tick.
I did?
Which by the
was that?
The Tick.
Oh, okay.
But so I just so you know, Damian, I flipped ahead to see what the offerings were this month from New England Comics as far as the Tick goes, and there's just a coloring book and a T-shirt. So yeah, no ongoing series or anything right now. But I suppose we'll see in May.
Yeah, it's a funny thing with New Comic Book Day. There a lot of especially the kids related ones, don't line up with current comics.
All right.
Well, there's a Casper one in there, so if you want your kids to find out who Casper the Friendly Ghost was, they've got some classics.
I think they are publishing
Little Lulu.
that
There's a
now.
Little Lulu one. Yeah,
I see Casper at my comic book store.
American Mythology.
Exactly, American Mythology.
Called, and they're very sporadic in how they produce their. Yeah.
I wonder how long American Mythology is going to last.
I know, right?
So, Image now?
All right. So, we ready to get? Yeah, let's get into these other 3,118 items that would cost us $71,882.41.
And there we are.
I was looking at that number and wondering what would it be if you didn't buy all the tchotchkes and just bought comics. If you bought every comic that came out, because they give you a number for every T-shirt and all that. But
yeah, so
I'm not going to do the math.
Eric's making me read on Wednesday. You're making me do math. That is, I don't have an Excel spreadsheet for that, so that's going to take me a heck of a long time. So I'll get back to you on that one.
Yeah. That's a good point, though, Damian. I'd be curious about that too.
Yeah, because in my wildest millionaire fantasies, I still don't want to buy every Funko Pop that came out, but maybe every comic.
Yeah.
Oh well. Never going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
So what's the first image book, guys? Oh, I know what the first image book is for Eric, so I don't even know why I bother asking.
Okay, I'll bite. What do you think that is, George?
Page 66. It's got to be.
Well, okay. Yes. 66, Lazarus Risen. It's the Return of Lazarus, one of my very favorite comic books of all time. They took a hiatus, and now they're back for quarterly offerings, and this is the first quarterly offering. by Greg Rucka and Michael Lark. So yeah, I'm super duper excited. I don't care that it's $8. It could be $10 for all I care, and I'd still buy this thing. I just want more Lazarus.
It's been a while, hasn't it?
It has. I don't remember how many months it's been.
Hopefully, if they hit a quarterly schedule, you'll be able to remember what's going on. And
yeah. Well, I think that was their plan, was that if they do this quarterly thing and offer us a little bit more than the usual monthly page count or whatever it is, that they would be able to keep up on their schedule, and also, Michael Lark won't burn out from doing this book. So I think going back to what George said about this saga in terms of the book club, I think maybe Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples can maybe learn from this approach. I don't know, just so we could get more saga sooner.
I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people are watching Lazarus, a lot of people in the industry watching Lazarus to see if it works and if they maintain their audience this way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
because that's
and something like Lazarus,
risk, since it hasn't been done this way before.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you think like a book like Saga, I'm getting, they know where it ends. A book like Lazarus theoretically could go for a while, no? I mean, so maybe this extends the life of Lazarus a little bit.
Yeah, especially in terms of just time, sure, because they can, they're only going to publish now 4 times a year. So yeah, but yeah, you're right. There's a lot of storytelling potential in this book. Whereas, I mean, it's not to say that that's not the same thing in Saga, but yeah, we already know that Brian K. Vaughan has an ending in sight for that book. We just don't know when it's going to end.
Yeah. Whereas a book like this, really, you would know better than me. The Lazarus world seems to be so vast, and they seem to add so much to it that it seems like it could go on longer. And now that they've got this opportunity to take these breaks, they might have the energy to make it go longer than maybe they originally anticipated. Of course, time-wise now, it'll take longer to read it, but
yeah,
maybe they'll keep it going longer than they had intended.
Yep, that's true. Plus, there's always also the opportunity to do, tie-in books like they did with the Lazarus X plus 66 book miniseries that they did.
Yeah.
To tell different stories or focus on different characters. So whatever, give me more. That's all I care about.
Well, the very first book listed by Image, Little Bird, has me kind of excited because I'm a fan of the artist Ian Bertram. And I haven't seen much work by him, but every time I have, I really liked it a lot.
So remind me, Damian, what is...
That's on page 54.
Right, but what would I know Ian Bertram from?
House of Penance is his most well-known thing.
Okay.
It was a mini-series at Dark Horse about the Winchester mansion and the ghosts there. And then he had one issue of Batman Eternal that upset everyone reading it because his visual style was so radically different.
I remember that, yeah, okay.
And then I think I've seen him on an issue or 2 of Zero. I don't know if you remember that comic a while ago. So he hasn't appeared in comics that I'm aware of very much, but I really loved his style, especially in House of Penance. So I'm looking forward to this new book that I'm not quite sure what it's about. It says, with the same limitless scope as a new East of West or Saga and the drama and surrealism of Akira. So they're aiming high.
Yeah.
But just because of the artist, I automatically put that on my pull list. And it's only 5 issues, so I suppose if the story's bad, I can just enjoy the art for 5 issues.
And I noticed that Image is doing these creator spotlight pages for the new books that they're spotlighting.
Right.
So that's kind of neat. You get to have a little interview with the creators to whet your appetite for that particular book.
Yeah, and in this case, I actually didn't want too much given away, so I didn't read it. I knew I was going to get it anyway. So I didn't want to spoil the plot for myself. But
now, see, I might take the opposite approach because I'm not familiar with the artist all that much, other than what you mentioned before. So I might get something out of that. I have not read these spotlights, but I just wanted to point them out.
Yeah, and I might read it just like you. I might read it for something else that I wasn't sure if I wanted to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think there's samples of artwork on the next 2 pages after it, and that gives you an idea of his odd, quirky style a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they give you 4 pages, that's unusual.
They're really pushing that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the next
maybe
one,
this is stuff they used to put in that Image Plus, which they don't publish anymore.
That could be, yeah.
Assassination Nation, which comes next, is.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to get that, but it looks interesting, and it's Erica Henderson from Squirrel Girl doing the art.
Yes.
Which is intriguing.
Kyle Starks is the writer.
If nothing else, they could do spin-offs of all those characters that you see on that double-page spread in here. I mean, just those names alone.
Right.
I want to know what some of them are like, right?
Yeah. Connie the Tank, your wife is in this book.
Yeah, Connie the Tank. Yeah, my wife. Although she can be.
You may not call her the Tank too often.
No, she'll use her freezing powers. If you call her a tank, she'll freeze you like Mr. Freeze would. But yeah, Connie the Tank is in there. That's right. Yeah.
It might be her from an alternate universe.
Yeah. Is there somebody called the Benevolent Overlord on that page? I don't see anybody in there.
No, but you got Meat Stick.
Meat Stick. Oh,
David
and the Benevolent
Bowie
Overlord
knife.
just entered the Golden Room studio, just to let you know. So if you hear a meowing or scratching, or you hear me screaming because I'm being scratched, you'll know why.
Anyone else thinking of getting that book?
I want to read it, but I don't. It's probably not something that I will pick up. Not in singles anyway.
In my case, listeners of last month's, 2 months ago, the previews episode, I did mention maybe cutting back entirely. So adding something new like that would not be prudent at this juncture, as some people have said. Yeah.
Is this a form of masochism for you to read the previews very closely and try not to order any new comics?
Well, no, it's actually the opposite. It affords me the opportunity to keep up with things in an affordable way.
Uh-huh.
And then podcasts are fantastic because as sometimes I say when I listen to Eric's show or somebody else's, say even Peter Rios, his Legion project, they read the books, so I don't have to. And they provide I don't mind spoilers in certain cases, so, spoil away.
Understandable.
Unfortunately, there are a lot of books in this catalog, though, that are, that's about as far as I can go. I make recommendations here, of course. All right, guys, how much deeper do you go into the image section of the book?
I got a few more things.
I have something on page 75 and 76, so let me know when we get to the 70s.
Okay. Damian, I have on 68 the Matador trade paperback. This is written by Devin Grayson. This is the reason I bring it up, and the artist is Brian Stelfreeze. The reason I bring this up is because the Superblog Team Up post that I have prepared has to do with stuff that Devin Grayson wrote in when she was on Nightwing. And so during the course of me writing that post, I wondered, what the heck is Devin Grayson up to these days?
And here she is.
And lo and behold, I open up previews, and here's a collection of that 6-issue series, and I love the cover on that. Yeah, I don't remember it either, so that's not a good sign. But here's the trade.
I'm a bit surprised I didn't hear about it because Brian Stelfreeze usually gets a bit of a spotlight when he has a new book out.
Yeah.
Maybe it's actually quite a bit older, and they're just bringing it out in trade now.
Could be. That cover's beautiful. So, yeah, maybe something's going on there. I just want to let you know, this just in from Connie, the grantor from the still defunct George and Tony Entertainment Show. She has let me know that Connie the Tank will roll over you guys. So we have to watch out. So that's why she's an Assassination Nation or whatever. What was that book called again?
Yeah.
Assassination
Nation.
Yeah.
So that's why, because she's going to roll over all those people in there.
That she'll be the last assassin standing, probably.
Yes, and in fact, if I disappear or this microphone goes silent or you hear static, you'll know why. I got rolled.
Well, I marked a trade on page 71, The Ministry of Space by Warren Ellis and Chris Weston, which is a Warren Ellis miniseries that I've missed. I think it's from probably in the early 2000s or something.
I marked that one too.
So I may well grab that one. I don't pre-order my trades. I usually order them the day they come out from in-stock trades, or sometimes buy them from my shop. But I'll keep an eye out for that one when March rolls around. I guess we're looking at.
Man, another beautiful cover. Oof, nice.
A couple of pages before that, I just want to make note because this is a book that I read, but here is I think the first hardcover collection of Black Magic, the first book of Shadows. This collects issues 1 through 11, and that's another Greg Rucka book that needs to come back.
Yeah, what happened to that? Yeah, I'm now going to regret having bought it in paperback trades because I love hardback trades.
Yeah, well, especially when it collects the first volume of it, right? And with all those issues,
and you get it in bigger size, and you get to look at when it's a great art like Black Magic has. That's very tempting.
And then on page George, what page did you say you were at? 70.
I have something on 75 and 76. 75 and 76.
Okay, I got one thing on 73 here. Have either of you ever read Scud the Disposable Assassin?
I have not.
I've never heard of it.
So here is Scud the Disposable Assassin, the whole shebang, trade paperback. This is collecting Scud 1 through 24, and as it says here, a super sweet one shot. I think this is something that I read back in the 90s. Just a couple issues. A friend of mine introduced me to this. It's about a disposable assassin who is trying to keep himself alive. So if he doesn't kill his target, he remains alive. He won't shut off. And so as George is fond of saying, hilarity ensues.
For 24 issues.
I'm really tempted to get that.
Have you ever read any of it?
Just a couple issues.
You did?
792 pages. You'll get your money's worth.
No, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, George, what do you have?
Well, for those of you who want to get your freak on page 75, you have Swing Volume 2, the original graphic novel from Matt Hawkins and Jenny Chung, with art by Yishan Lee. This is part of the Sunstone universe. It's I don't know if anybody read Sunstone before, but that was a great book by Stefan Sajak. And I'll tell you, if you ever get the trades of that, a lot of fun back matter. He's a great artist. And mature audiences only, though, please. Kids, if you're listening, Swing and Sunstone are not for you. And one of the pricier things that, right. And one of the pricier things that caught my eye is on page 76, the Wayward Book 3 Deluxe hardcover. Talking about hardcovers, Damian. This finishes the series. It collects Wayward 21 through 30, written by Jim Zub with art by Steve Cummins and Tamara Bonvillain. And I may get this. I do want to get this because I have the first 2 volumes in hardcover, and I have held off reading both of those in anticipation of book 3. So this may be a Christmas/birthday gift certificate purchase.
Yeah, I've read a lot of Wayward digitally and keep meaning to buy it physically, so I might go in for these hardbacks too. All
right, so since like I said, these have been on my books 1 and 2 are on my bookshelf and haven't been read yet. What's your opinion on them?
I think it's really good. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I like Jim Zub, so and
yeah,
the artwork looks fantastic.
it's of the Jim Zub comics I've read, I think it's his best.
Great.
I don't know if I've read everything he's
I'm
written.
looking forward to it.
And the art is fantastic, great color. Tamara Bonvillain is one of my favorite colorists. So yeah, it's a good one a good choice.
Yeah, so this one's definitely on the been marked in the book. And actually, since I mean, it's hard for me to recommend it, obviously, because I haven't read any of it. But knowing that you've read it, I'm glad it has a recommendation from you. All right, I don't have anything until page 93. So, gentlemen, carry on.
Same.
Oh, okay.
It's probably the same thing, George.
Yeah, I have 93 as my next page.
So we're all going to talk about Paper Girls 26?
Yes, and the announcement.
Number 4. No offense to Mark Millar and Raphael Albuquerque, but I'm not reading Prodigy.
Well,
yes,
and it's not a landmark. It's not a landmark issue of Prodigy, but it is a Paper Girl because it's the beginning of the finale.
Yeah.
And I've been wondering for a long time, how long is this going to go on for? It's great, but it needs an ending. So here comes the ending.
Yeah, I'm going to be sad when that's gone.
But I'll tell you what a ride. I'll have to admit I'm a little behind on it, but I have the feeling now that I know it's going to end in, I guess, at issue 30 or whatever it is, I'm going to wait, and then I'm just going to reread the whole thing. That's what I'm going to do.
I think that's a book that
yeah,
you need to do that with.
Yeah, because there is a lot of bouncing around, and like I said before, thing about retaining what I read as opposed to comprehending it, having gaps, even when they take a little bit off for trade purposes and stuff. This book could use a reread, and I think that's just what I'm going to do.
Well, it has so much complex weaving throughout time that you definitely need.
Exactly.
You need to keep it all in your head, which is impossible to do at this point. So yeah, I look forward to rereading it.
I take it you guys have been reading it in single issues?
Yeah.
Yes.
Had you been reading the back matter? Because I mean, it was a lot of fun and stuff. But I think if I go back for the reread, I don't think I'm going to reread the back matter.
I skipped a lot of the back matter because it just played on the whole joke about Paper Girls, which the book didn't really seem to be about anymore.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, the title is a bit misleading, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. I mean, endless letters about, I had a paper route too, is not really relevant to the comic book, despite the name.
Oh my gosh. This just occurred to me. I can't believe I didn't think about this before, Damian. So thank you for this. My wife used to, when she was younger than the characters in Paper Girls, had a paper route. Perhaps,
no way, really?
Yeah. Perhaps this is a way to get her into comics. I need to introduce her to Paper Girls.
It never worked.
As long as she loves incredibly complex time travel stories.
Yeah, that may not work after all. Oh, well.
I had a paper route in college. I was a late bloomer, I guess.
All right.
And how many people have no idea what we're talking about?
Paper
routes and stuff.
Papers. Right? What are papers?
What is that?
Anything else from Image?
I've page 99.
Okay.
I have been reading Unnatural by Mirka and I've been enjoying it. It's a 12-issue maxi series with I don't want to say anthropomorphic, but I guess I have to because everybody's an animal. They're a pig. The main character is a pig. Her friend was a mouse, and it's a very interesting take on sexuality and things that are going on in the world today. Just you throw animals in the place of people so that I don't think anybody can really say, oh, you're talking about my group of people or this group of people. They're all just there as stand-ins. And I find it compelling. It's already been printed in Italy and other European countries, and it's just making its way here to the States now. So that's Unnatural number 8 of 12. I don't know if anybody's been reading that, any of your listeners.
Well, given that description, George, now I want to read it when it comes out in a collection.
Yeah, I think I'll check it out when it's all done.
So is this...
and this artist, this writer-artist, she's doing, I think, the artwork in Hex Wives from, I guess that's from Vertigo. From DC Vertigo. Yeah.
I didn't realize that Image was publishing reprints from Europe, or translations from Europe, I guess you could call them.
I don't know if they're making a very big habit of it, but this one in particular is one I'm aware of.
So, George, would you consider this this generation's Animal Farm?
I don't know. Well, okay. Well, I'll give you the basic plot. If a animal species are not supposed to commingle or mate with each other, so they're against interspecies relationships. And if you are not mated with someone in your own species by your 25th birthday, you go through a government process of being matched with somebody. And if you are in an interspecies relationship, you have to pay exorbitant taxes that are going to bankrupt you anyway. So there is no incentive, except for love and emotion, to get involved with anybody outside your species. That's a very broad description of the world that they live in. And of course, the main character hits her 25th birthday at the beginning of the story. And she is single, hopelessly single. And again, hilarity ensues.
Yeah, it sounds interesting. I'm gonna check out the collection when it comes out.
And of course, there are conspiracies and stuff in the background too. So yeah, it's deeper than how I just described.
All right, is that it for Image or anything else?
For me,
yeah, that's all my Image.
All right, so on to Dark Horse, where they're already previewing coming in April the new series Ascender by Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen. So apparently they think that's going to be a big seller for them if they're already promoting it here.
That's Image.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. That is Image.
It's confusing the way it's laid out.
You're right. I apologize. Image Comics. So just take everything I said and replace Dark Horse with Image, and we'll move on as if I never said that at all.
It's okay. Did you guys read Descender?
No.
I have not.
Because I read the first few issues and kind of lost interest, but apparently it was popular enough that they're now doing a sequel series, Ascender.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's right. Well, I mean, that was always planned, right?
I have no idea.
I think that was part of their overall world that they were trying to create.
Oh, okay.
Well, good for them. They got some momentum, I guess, even though
Right.
we're not reading it.
My first Dark Horse
very
is
popular
on page
from what I
106.
understand. 106. Okay,
Yep,
cool.
Mine too.
Invisible Kingdom by G. Willow Wilson and the amazing artist Christian Ward.
Yeah, wow. Those
I'm
preview
super
images,
excited.
that's just amazing looking. The colors are just incredible.
Yeah, and he's one of those artists who does his own coloring. So
Well, it shows.
that often really the art clicks completely because it's his full vision.
Now Christian Ward also did Odyssey with Matt Fraction, right?
Matt Fraction, yes.
And I remember looking at that book. I haven't read it. I just looked at, I saw the preview pages and thought, I gotta read this book. And I still haven't, but I want to. And so now here's another book. So I'm given the two people involved with this, I might have to pick this up.
Well, and I love science fiction when it's done well, and I have a lot of trust that these two can do it well.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, I've been wanting to read a good science fiction comic.
It says, set in a far-flung star system, this new epic sci-fi monthly saga tells the tale of two women, a young religious acolyte and a hard-bitten freighter pilot, who separately uncover a vast conspiracy between the leaders of the system's dominant religion and the mega corporation that controls society. That's a bit generic, but
doesn't it sound like Star Wars?
A little bit, and like some other things.
Luke and
I've
Han?
read.
Come on.
Right. Hard-bitten freighter pilot. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Well, I'm a little less excited after reading that, but it's already on my pull list.
It'll look gorgeous, though, Damian.
Yes.
They unsold you on the solicit.
That happens sometimes. That happens more often than I'd like.
There's an art to writing these blurbs, and I'm sure usually they're written rather hastily. But anyway, I mean, G. Willow Wilson has a good track record as a writer. It's probably less generic than it sounds.
Oh, yeah. Next for me from Dark Horse.
I skip ahead to 110.
Yep, there you go. Go ahead.
No, Eric, it's your show.
No, George, please. You're the co-host here.
Okay, well, on 110 is Fox News.
Hold on.
I'm sorry. 110 in previews. I'm sorry. Black Hammer 45 from the World of Black Hammer #1. So yet another Black Hammer story. This time set in 1945.
The golden age of Black Hammer.
That's super. Yeah.
Listed as a mini-series. I wonder how long it'll be.
Yeah.
How long was Dr. Star?
Was that 4 issues?
Was it? I don't remember.
Yeah, and just like Dr. What was his name? Sherlock Frankenstein. That was 4.
Okay,
right.
So,
but the Quantum League's I think 6.
Yeah, and I'm enjoying that. The main title, obviously, I'm enjoying, and they just had Cthulhuese come out. And that was
a bit of fun. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm so far at the point where anything that says Black Hammer goes on my pull list.
Right? Exactly.
This
Me
looks
too.
Good. I mean, someday that might not be true, but for now.
Yeah.
Well, but what's interesting about this is that it's Jeff Lemire writing with Ray Fox.
Mm-hmm.
So that might
not
change
sure
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Matt Kent and Charlene Kent are doing the art.
Yeah, they have a very non-mainstream style.
For sure.
Definitely.
With watercolor colors and kind of a scratchy, less detailed approach.
Mm-hmm. Of which I've not been a particular fan of, but I'll be getting this, so I'm hoping to expand my horizons a bit, at least in terms of their art.
Right.
And then you get the main title, Black Hammer Age of Doom, on page 111, number 9, in addition to the first collection of the Quantum Age from the World of Black Hammer.
Right.
Yeah.
I've really been enjoying Quantum Age. I secretly hope that comes back, but we'll have to see what.
Yeah.
I think there's one issue left. See whether there's a way to have a sequel after the final issue. Have you been following Quantum Age, Eric, or did you decide to pass on that?
No, I've been getting it, and it started off a bit slow, so to speak, for me. But these last few issues, I've just been really enjoying it.
Right, and it ties in very tightly, actually, with Black Hammer.
Surprisingly so, with the last issue that I just read. I think issue 5.
Yeah. 2 of the main Black Hammer characters turn out to still be around in this 1,000-year later place.
In fact, at one point, as I was reading that issue, I'm like, am I reading Black Hammer or am I reading Quantum Age?
I had the same feeling for a moment.
It's got a Paper Girl style to it now at this point when you jump back and forth.
That's right. My next thing's on 125, so if you guys have something in between there.
I have nothing before that.
Well, I was wondering, is anybody interested in Astro Hustle on page 116? Looks like a mini-series from Tom Riley, Jay Nitz, let's see who else, and Ursula Decay. The black sheep of a prominent activist family returns after being accidentally put in crop cryostasis. So another cryostasis person being thought out in the modern day. This time, the guy's been in cryostasis for 60 years. Chen, a cosmic criminal, wakes up to find his younger brother is now the president of the galaxy. Wow, look at that. Oh man, there's going to be a lot of nepotism there. Chen does what he knows best. He steals stuff and causes a problem.
George,
Does
I knew
the
you were
cover
going to
somehow look like Star Wars?
Ooh.
Well, it's got a 70s feel to it. Oh, I don't know. Actually, almost like I'm looking at what's funny about this variant cover? This variant cover almost looks like it's a it would be the wrapping for trading cards. I don't think that's what they're going for, but because of the size of it, it looks like a trading card thing. Yeah. But it looks more to me like almost like an Escape from New York, or not Escape from New York, but what's the other one?
Escape from New York, or Little Something in China.
Right.
Big Trouble in Little China.
Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah. It's got a little 70s feel to it there. And I am still getting Mystery Science Theater 3000 number 6 comes out as solicited on page 116.
That's a cool cover there. So has that been a good comic book?
I've been enjoying it. What they've been doing is they've just been taking what I'm guessing are comics that are public domain now, so they could just take the artwork without having to get any permission from anybody. And they superimpose character Mystery Science Theater that have been sent there by the evil people, and they change the dialogue balloons. So it's old school art coupled with just the characters from Mystery Science Theater 3000 and them adjusting to the world that they're in at that particular time.
Dang it! Now I want to read that.
Well, and this is a case where I did read an interview with one of the almost like their version of the bullpen bulletins. I forget what they call it at the end of Dark Horse Comics, but I think they said something like they were trying to figure out how to do a comic, and they didn't want to draw in the panel. You know how during Mystery Science Theater 3000 they have the silhouette of them watching the movie, and then they're giving their take on everything. They didn't want to do that in every panel of the comic, so they were trying to figure out how do you do it for a something that's sequential and static. And then they figured, why don't we just take the characters and just throw them right in there? And that adjusted the entire way that they looked at writing the series.
It's kind of a cool concept. I just assumed they would, play with their own characters and make jokes about movies. So I'm kind of impressed that they're doing it about comics.
Yeah, exactly. I had the same reaction, Damian.
I'll be honest, I had no idea what to expect until I read that first issue, and they hooked me.
I think it's something I might buy on a digital sale, or if I found in the $1 bins.
Yep.
I'm not in a rush to read it.
That, sure. Yep. It's one of those things, if you happen to find it, might be worth your while. Right. Like you said, for $1 here, $1 there. Right. Mm-hmm.
Just because I'm not, I can understand if you're a big Mystery Science Theater 3000, you might want to buy it, when it comes out. But I can wait on it. But I'm glad to know about it, and I'll keep an eye out for it.
I'm gonna skip to 125. This is a new miniseries, Bad Luck Chuck, by Leela Gwen and Matthew Dow Smith and Kelly Fitzpatrick, doing the cover or colors. I just thought that was interesting. So Charlene, or Chuck, hires out her own bad luck, providing disaster where someone else can profit. She can get you that insurance payout fortune for a price. So I thought that's a really interesting take on the whole bad luck superpower.
Yeah,
right.
I thought it was clever.
So are you going to put that on your list, or you're still thinking about it, or is it just something you thought was interesting?
Interesting. Yes, it's going on the short list for now. So it really just depends on how much money I'm going to end up spending.
Doesn't it always?
Yeah, it does. I really wish when they say miniseries, I really wish they'd tell us how many issues. Because if it's 4, I'm in. If it's 6 or 9 or whatever, then maybe I'll wait for the trade.
Right. They like to play their cards close to the chest so that you don't know. At least they say miniseries. I mean, some comics, some companies don't tell you until like on the third issue you find out, oh, this is 3 of 6.
Right. Right. Yeah, I suppose we should be grateful for Dark Horse's transparency here. And
I feel bad, but Dark Horse has a lot of miniseries.
They do.
By people whose names I don't know, so I don't usually take a close look. Because there's so many comics already. But it's great that Dark Horse is giving lesser known people a chance to do these miniseries.
Mm-hmm. And I wanted to mention, I just downloaded the episode just the other day, but the Creator Talks podcast has the writer being interviewed in that episode. So if people want to go check that out and maybe get interested in the comic and pre-order it.
Yeah, I'll check that out.
It's in my feed. Yeah, can't wait to listen.
Layla Gwyn, I guess. Layla Gwen. Well, I would skip ahead to page 130 if no one else has something before then.
Go ahead.
Sounds good. Sounds good to me.
So Dark Horse, who I don't think is the original publisher, is publishing something called Moonshadow, the Definitive Edition.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I originally read this in borrowed floppies. So I don't own a copy of this. I've always meant to buy myself. Here's a hardback calling it the Definitive Edition. I feel like this is a hugely influential, mid-90s comic that nowadays we see its influences more than we might have a few years ago. Starting with Saga is obviously very influenced by it, along with other books.
Well, I'm surprised, Damian, that you say you didn't you read it borrowed, right? Because
yes.
This originally came out through Epic.
Maybe it's from the 80s.
Yes.
Then. Wow.
Yes, I think it came out in the mid to late 80s. And then Vertigo, and maybe that's what you're thinking of, Vertigo reprinted it in the 90s, and that's the edition that I have.
Yeah, well, to be honest, or it's kind of interesting, I was lent those issues by my editor when I was writing for a magazine called Science Fiction Age. And he had bought the original issues. Scott Edelman, a great editor and one-time comic book writer, he had bought the original issues and sent me his own copies so I could do an advanced review before it came out at Vertigo.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
So I was, extremely impressed by it at the time. So I guess I read it in the early 90s, which is why I said 90s. And I've always meant to pick up my own copies and somehow never did. So now I'm glad I waited so long.
It's really a fantastic fantasy coming of age story, and beautifully painted by John J. Muth.
The hardcover is going to look really nice. You know it's going to look nice. Yeah.
George, have you read this?
Yeah, when it originally came out, it's in the long boxes in the Boiler Room studio somewhere. I'm if I didn't have it, I'd probably be tempted to purchase this. But a hardcover, James DeMatteis, man, one of my favorite writers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the art, you're right, is beautiful. Great story. I'd love to revisit it. So,
if
anybody hasn't read it, they should.
Yeah, there are certain comic runs that, for various reasons, I want the collection of on my shelf, and this is very close to being one of those. I'm going to have to really think about getting this. It's only $30.
Yeah, you need
with
a new
your
shelf,
discount,
Eric.
it may be close to $15.
It could be, yeah. So that's an easy choice.
And Dark Horse is because I'm kind of picky about hardbacks. I like them to have good binding and stuff. And Dark Horse usually does a really nice job with hardbacks. So that it's coming out from Dark Horse is a good sign. If it was coming out from DC at Vertigo, it might not be so good binding.
I just say that I think everybody but DC and Marvel has good binding in terms of their hardcovers.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, there may be other people who don't, but like Dynamite. Sorry if anyone from Dynamite's listening. Like, they're very widely at some publishers, and other publishers are very consistent.
Yeah.
On the next page over, did you guys notice Grunt, the art and unpublished comics of James Stokoe?
Yes. And that cover, I keep saying this, it's an audio medium, so it's tough, but man, what a nice cover.
Yeah. Well, and James Stokoe is one of those people you just love for his incredibly detailed and quirky art.
Exactly.
So an art book from him is very tempting. And I have started buying more and more art books. In fact, just the other day, I bought a copy of a several years old art book now, but the art of, Phillips. What's his first name? The guy who does Criminal.
Oh, Sean Phillips.
The art of Sean Phillips. So I just bought the art of Sean Phillips. So I'm starting my collection of oversized art books. And I think Grunt is going to be part of it.
How do you store those? Do they fit on your shelf okay? I mean, I have a few oversized things. I don't know what to do with them.
I am looking for new shelves with wider, wider shelves. Yeah. Or deeper. What's the word? Taller shelves, I guess is the right. Yes. Some I mean, even fit and some don't.
Yeah. And in this case with this book, okay, 9x12 should be able to fit on a shelf. Okay. Yeah. But I mean, if one isn't familiar with his work, just to give an example, featuring some of his best-selling illustrations from works such as Orkstain, Aliens, Dead Orbit, Wonton Soup, and Godzilla in Hell. So if nothing else, the Godzilla in Hell, worth the price of admission right there.
Yeah. Yeah, I really enjoyed his Godzilla.
Yeah.
He's someone that I keep wishing would do more work. He kind of appears for a while, then goes away, and then appears for a while. Maybe he's doing work in other fields or something.
Mm-hmm. Did you guys see Pros and Comic Cons on page 132, the next page, trade paperback? Edited by Hope Nicholson. It's following the best-selling Secret Loves of Geeks comes this brand new anthology featuring comics and prose stories by cartoonists and professional geeks about the world of comic book conventions.
There should be a story in there about Kitra.
I didn't catch that. What'd you say?
There should be a story in there about Kitra, because my favorite Comic-Con story is the time she stood in line for 3 days or something to get you a drawing.
It was.
I'm exaggerating.
It was the course of one day, but yeah.
Anyway, that's an amazing story.
Yeah. No, George,
that might be the story by Amy Chu.
I missed this. Now I want to get that.
Did either of you read The Secret Loves of Geeks?
No.
Okay. I read that, and it was a fun anthology. I mean, I didn't read it all in one sitting. I would read a story here, a story there. It was a lot of fun, but this one, I think, might have a broader audience than The Secret Loves of Geeks. And just like that book, this one is edited by Hope Nicholson.
Well, I will wait for Eric to get it, and when he reviews it, I will then decide whether to buy it.
There you go. So like we said, Eric reads it, so we don't have to.
Yeah.
This is a trade paperback, and it's $19.99. But this is pre-solicited because it says it's going to be on sale in May, at the end of May.
End of May, yeah.
Yeah.
So is that of any use to those of us making orders, or is that just for comic book stores when they pre-solicit things?
I don't know. I guess... maybe it won't appear in another previews. Yeah, maybe they have to order it now just to see how many you're worth making. I don't know how that works.
I wonder if they think that it won't. They're dubious about how much it will sell, so they're advanced soliciting it like this, so that there's a lot of time to build up orders.
Trying
for
to create extra buzz,
perhaps. Yeah,
that could be.
Because I'm sure we'll see it again in some future previews.
Right.
And some of them might even start with a Kickstarter campaign. I believe The Secret Loves of Geeks was originally a Kickstarter, wasn't available through Diamond, then I guess gained popularity on maybe the convention circuit, and then it became part of, then it was solicited through previews. Again, I don't know how any of that stuff works.
Yeah, that makes sense because this is the kind of thing that you would sell like hotcakes at a convention.
Right.
When that's right on people's
each one of
brains.
those creators could have it at their table.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And if you wanted to, with that many great people on it, you go to each of their tables, you get a signature, and you could have it's almost like having a convention yearbook. You take
That's a
that
good
book
point.
and you get it signed by everybody who participated.
Definitely looks like a fun item to read.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else for Dark Horse?
Not me.
I have one on page 135.
I figured you would.
Yep. Well, pages 134 and 135 just go to show that Disney still licenses their stuff out to other companies, Dark Horse being one of them. And on previous preview shows, I have expressed interest in the Disney versions of classics. I recently got the Uncle Scrooge and Donald Duck, Moby Dick. I did get that, Eric. I haven't read it yet, but I got it. Goofy and Mickey Mouse, Don Quixote. And now this one is Disney Hamlet starring Donald Duck. And I have to admit, I'm intrigued. It is a 72-page full-color trade paperback on sale again in May, not in March, for $10.99.
Yeah, I have to admit, if you're gonna play in Shakespeare's playground, well, one, it better be good, and two, I'm always interested to see how they adapt those stories, especially, Hamlet. Come on,
that seems like a crazy choice,
right?
If you sum it up, isn't it kind of a play about depression?
Oh, I'm going to make a recommendation here that I don't think I've ever mentioned on my old defunct show or even on these previews episodes because it came out a while ago. There was a version of Dante's Inferno. It's called Mickey Mouse's Inferno. Awesome. Wow. If you're a fan of Dante's Inferno, you must seek this out. And I don't think it was a Dark Horse thing. I think it might have been like Paper Cuts or Fantagraphics or something like that. But seek that out. I highly recommend that.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to get that. I do buy a lot of Dante Inferno related books. I had no idea that. Mickey Mouse.
Do you really? I thought I was the only one.
One of my favorites is the science fiction one by Larry Niven and Jerry Pournelle.
Ooh, I don't.
Where they make up a
one.
science fiction inferno.
Really?
Yeah. And
all right, so we're gonna have to talk about that also.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have to listen back to this, and I'll have to look it up on the interwebs. That sounds very interesting. On page 140, I just wanted to call it a Hellboy jigsaw puzzle, 1,000 pieces. I am a fan of jigsaw puzzles, and having a Hellboy one or anything comic related at all, much less Hellboy, I find that awesome. I've mentioned on this show before, I like the return of enamel pins, which they have some Mystery Science Theater ones on page 139, but to see a jigsaw puzzle in here just warms my heart.
That seems like an ideal Christmas present for a comic book fan. It's too bad it came out in March.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, I actually for friends this year, I gave jigsaw puzzles for Christmas because I thought that as a family, especially a lot of my friends are up north in the New York area, hoping they would get snow and maybe snowed in around the holidays between Christmas and New Year's with the family there, that they would have a nice little family thing to do, a jigsaw puzzle, and all ages could help out on a jigsaw puzzle. They probably hated it and rolled their eyes, but I liked it.
Well, I certainly like the idea of jigsaw puzzles. I just never seem to give myself the time to actually put one together.
It is a fun thing to do with the family, I find. So I think it's a good choice as a family gift.
Out of the way, maybe a dining room table or something. You have it set up. You go there, and especially this time of year, maybe kids are home from school. Maybe even the kids who are away at school, they come home. It's something to bring them together instead of them looking at their mobile devices or talking to their friends and stuff. Bring them to the table, and then the little ones can help out too.
Yeah, and the grandparents often like to do that too.
Yeah.
I'm now trying to picture my mom helping with a Hellboy jigsaw puzzle. But maybe she would do it.
You might need one of the ones that I sent out.
Okay.
I sent out jigsaw puzzles of the cover of the Swing graphic novel. That's great for kids.
Yeah.
There you go. It's a comic book. Kids will love it.
Yes, it's a comic book. Come on.
Okay. On to DC.
All right, what's next? Are we on to DC? Oh boy, got to get out the DC previews. Oh boy.
Well, I'll while you're getting that, George, I'm gonna just jump to the Detective Comics 1000 offering. So
yes,
here's the second book to reach 1,000 copies, 1,000 issues.
I'm going to assume we're all getting this, right?
Oh yeah. My question to you guys,
which
though,
cover?
Yes, which cover?
Yes. So
will I
Eric,
stop myself at one?
Yeah, there's that too.
Oh right.
Because I ended up getting 3 or 4 of the Action Comics ones.
Oh really?
Although I originally swore to myself I'd only get one.
Do you remember? Could you tell us which ones? Like which eras you got?
I think I got the 60s and the 30s and the 70s. The 70s, I think, was Jim Steranko.
Was that your favorite one? Did you have a favorite?
My favorite one was the Steve Rude 30s one, which is the one I'm definitely getting this time because he's doing a 30s Batman too, and I just love Steve Rude covers. And what I found, the reason I got so many is because when it came out, I found I could order more copies on in-stock trades.
Oh, really?
At their very large discount. So I just went a little crazy and I ordered like 3 more than I had already got from my shop.
Yeah, I had no idea they sold these $10 books.
Yeah, it seems like on in-stock trades, every now and then the perfect bound books that look a little bit like trades, they'll sell them on in-stock trades.
Well, I'm going to have to keep an eye out for that.
Did we just give away a secret if this is out in time? Eric, is this out in time for your listeners to get in on this?
No kidding. But not before me, though.
In-stock trades, so you're getting a similar discount to DCBS, but you don't have to order it in advance. Just the week it comes out, you order it.
Wow.
So something to keep in mind, anyway, if you want to be further tempted. But from my shop, I pre-ordered the Steve Rude cover.
Yeah, I like that one, too.
I'm going to go with Michael Cho, the 1950s.
Yeah, that was my other one.
Yeah, that's the route I took with the Action Comics. I did the 50. He was fighting some little aliens or something like that.
Yeah, I'm also tempted by the Jim Steranko cover. There's something about that I like.
Mm-hmm.
I would assume I would have been crazy about a Bernie Wrightson cover, but at least in the tiny thumbnail version, it doesn't look that interesting.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like your typical Bernie Wrightson stuff.
Yeah.
Or was that how he was back? No, I was gonna say, is that how he drew in the 70s? But I don't think so.
I wonder if this is some minor. Bernie Wrightson has sadly passed away. I wonder if this is some minor sketch of Batman that they've kind of jazzed up with some fancy coloring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, perhaps.
And I really love the line work of Bernie Wrightson, so I don't really want him to be all covered up by too much, computerized coloring.
Mm-hmm.
The Tim Sale cover looks nice too.
Mm.
But yeah, that Michael Cho one, Michael Cho and Steve Rude, I think are my 2 favorites.
Yeah.
Yep. I've noticed on social media people are posting. Well, I mean, not just Detective Comics. People post all sorts of comic book covers, but when I see the anniversary issues of the past, especially Detective, I remember them fondly from the 80s and the 90s whenever they would hit a milestone. Even Action Comics from back in the day, too. Just to see those covers again and kind of relive those memories, even just to see the cover, not necessarily remembering the story that was inside, but some of those were really good. Those anniversary issues. I hope this lives up to what it could be.
Yeah, there's something about anniversary issues that are just fun. I don't know why. I mean, it doesn't really make sense, but I just love them.
Yeah. The curmudgeons in me is coming out, but they seem to be more fun back in the day because it was almost like they were a little standalone and anybody could pick it up and didn't necessarily. All they needed to know was the basic flavor of the character that was in the book. They didn't necessarily need to know all the soap opera stuff that everybody else kind of knew about.
True.
Today's are a little different, but no less fun, just a different type of fun, I guess.
Well, the Action Comics 1000 mostly had standalone stories with one exception. So I thought that was a pretty good choice they did there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And hopefully this one will be the same.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
My next one is on page 8.
Yep.
Do you have anything before that?
Okay, page 8.
Dial H for Hero.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
One of the new Wonder comics, which I think are still part of the DC continuity. I'm not quite sure of the concept of Wonder.
I'm not sure of that either.
He insists, Brian Michael Bendis insists they are.
Right.
But I think fans are still wondering. They don't
still
believe
wondering.
It. Yeah, they don't believe it.
Wonder Comics has me scratching my head with wonder, but I will always give a Dial H for Hero a chance because I love that concept. It captures the innocence of love of superheroes for me.
Yeah. So you're definitely getting this the whole
Did you guys
miniseries,
read
or
the New 52 version by any chance?
The New 52 version, yes, I did get that.
I've got to admit, I enjoyed that. That was one of the bright spots in New 52. I had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, that one was, I felt the writer on that took a while to get used to writing comics because he was a novelist, but once he got going, I thought that was an excellent series. It kind of belonged at Vertigo in a way.
Mm-hmm.
But I
was
agree.
Good.
Yeah, it was a little weird. And they did have, when they did that, was it Heroes, Villains United, or I forget what the, what the
some
event
villain
was. But,
related thing, yeah.
Yeah, and they had those, the covers that were like 3D or lenticular covers.
Lenticular covers, yeah.
They had a dial E for evil or something like that on a Justice League or something like that. It was almost like a backdoor sequel to Dial H. So that was a lot of fun too. I remember that.
Yeah. And this one looks, I'm guessing, like one I'll be able to read with my daughter, and that's always a plus for me too. If we can read a fun superhero comic book together, I enjoy it more. Just having her as part of the audience.
Yeah. This one looks fun.
It does say, though, Damian, this blistering new miniseries. So blistering is not usually a term I associate with all ages books.
Oh, yeah. So maybe the art is giving me the wrong idea. It's a bit weird. I mean, it looks like a kid's book from the cover.
Mm-hmm. And it's got Superman on it, so it must be okay.
I do have one complaint. How many Spanish-speaking superheroes or characters in comics have to be named Miguel? They come up with some other name.
Good point.
But anyway, I think it'll be good fun.
Also,
and then, of course, on the facing page, you have on page 9, Heroes in Crisis #7. I don't think anybody's reading this book, and I think we should be championing.
Yeah.
It needs some attention, huh?
I think
poor Tom King. He's practically in the poorhouse.
Yeah, I'm glad they gave him a chance from some of his creator-owned work from those minor publishers in the big book.
It's kind of a charity case.
Yeah.
So did you guys notice the other all ages fun comic coming out of Vertigo, Second Coming?
Yeah. Oh, what page is that?
That's on page 12.
Okay.
I'm a little surprised DC wants to do something like this.
I am totally surprised that they're doing this. And normally I would be, this is a potential, cringe inducing story or concept, but
if it were another writer, I wouldn't
exactly
give it a second chance or a second look.
Mark Russell writing this, so
yeah,
I gotta think it's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, I'm definitely anything Mark Russell does, I give a chance.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, considering what he wrote prior to writing comics, this is right up his alley.
That's true. He wrote something about the Bible, like
a parody of the Bible or something like that.
Some kind of parody about biblical
people don't
stuff.
like him. Yeah, certain people don't like him. But I mean, this is right up his alley.
Right. And I would expect some other comic book company to do it, but I didn't expect DC, even under Vertigo, to go there.
Yeah, this was a big surprise to me.
This is a comic book where Jesus comes back and is a roommate of a superhero who's obviously a bit like Superman.
I described the cover that they have here to my wife today as we were driving back from lunch, and she thought she wants to read it now.
Well, there you go. That's the comic that's going to convert your wife. She'll be converted to comics and to a new form of Christianity.
There you go.
Do you notice in the background they have basically God slapping his head?
Yes.
I imagine he's saying, "Oy vey, not this."
Very clever.
So what do you guys got next?
I don't have anything till page 24, so fire away.
I have nothing until much later in the book.
Ditto. So go ahead, George.
Okay, I just wanted to call out Doomsday Clock is still coming out at number 10 DC previews.
What are you talking about? What comic is this?
Oh, it's another one that I think needs a little more attention.
Another charity case.
Doomsday Clock.
They were so cheap on this one, they didn't put color on the cover.
Yeah.
Yes, I don't know, a little noirish. I don't know what's going on here. This is another one where I've decided, after reading the first 3 and then knowing it was going to go bi-monthly at best,
to wait
the end and just, I have so many other things I could read. I'll just read it all when it's done and stay away. In that case, stay away from spoilers from podcasts and anything else I read, and just devour the whole thing. Yeah,
I do like the variant cover though, with the All-Star Comics cover with Dr. Manhattan at the table with the JSA.
Yes,
But that was kind of cute.
Cool. That's a classic cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another Gary Frank cover, so that's cool. Yeah, nice.
Yeah. In case you want Gary Frank in color, you got him.
Mm-hmm.
All right, fellas, how much further do we go in the book? I'm surprised that nobody had anything prior to that. So where else are we in the book?
I got some on page 38.
Okay. Then I'll just call it on page 31. The last issue of Green Arrow is Green Arrow number 50. And it apparently ties into that little title called Heroes in Crisis. So this might be why they took the Benson sisters off of Green Arrow, because they wanted to take him in a different direction. And it might have had to do with it might have to do with how they wanted to take Heroes in Crisis. Who can guess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've stopped following Green Arrow a long time ago.
Yeah, same here. I just wanted to call out issue 50, last issue.
I'm not reading this book. I dropped it after the first several issues after Scott Snyder took it over. This is Justice League number 19 and 20. But I wanted to point out, though, this is the storyline is the 6th dimension, and you've got Mr. Mixes-Pitalik in there involved. So that's very tempting. Yeah, for me to jump back onto this. But
and I'm a sucker for these connecting covers, 3 covers connecting into one picture.
Yeah. Actually, I don't care for those. I like the cover image that they're showing with the 3 covers, but man, I hate when they do that. Cuz I put issue 19 in front of 20 and in front of 21, and I don't know, it just you can't display them I guess you could, but I don't. So it's kind of lost on me. It's not like I'm going to pull them out of my box and put them right next to each other.
I do that. I pull them out and put them right next to each other and get a little childlike thrill. Look, they all connect. How clever.
All
right. Tangent alert. Do you guys remember I guess it was was it a Titans JLA crossover, maybe in the late 90s, where the covers connected, but they didn't really connect. Like, you needed, I don't know how you got the in-between panels. Like, it was almost like you had to, if you put the issues together, they didn't match, but you knew that they were supposed to match because they were missing portions of it, but I forgot how you got the missing portions. Do you guys remember that at all?
I remember the series, but I don't know what you're referring to. So
did you have to send away for the missing portions or something?
It was something like that, where you had to. It wasn't another tie-in book, or it wasn't part of the series. Somehow, some way, you had to do something extra that had nothing to do with buying another comic to get the missing. Like, it wasn't going to be a triptych; it was going to be a quintic, I guess. But there might have only been 3 issues, so you needed like panels 2 and 4 to complete the entire what the entire poster was going to be. And I remember being very frustrated about that. Obviously, to this day, it happened 20 years ago, and I'm still frustrated about it. So just figured I'd bring it up here. If you guys or any of the listeners remember what the heck I'm talking about.
It rings a very faint bell, but I think there were a number of these connecting cover tricks done in the 90s in particular. Mm-hmm. I remember some very complex connecting covers from Valiant at one point.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
Like where you had to buy every cover from this very large crossover thing to get the whole picture. I think I never even managed to put the whole picture together.
So I just tried to look it up. If it's the JLA Titans series that I'm thinking of, I couldn't find anything about this cover situation, George. So now I'm very intrigued.
Okay. All right, and then God knows which box it's in. I'm nowhere near as organized as you are, Eric, so I can't just pull it out of one of the boxes.
I'll be pulling out my copies here after we get done.
All right.
I've got nothing until page 60 next.
Okay.
I marked page 57 just to remind myself about Wonder Twins. It's number 2.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys might have discussed it last month. I don't know. But it's another Mark
Sean
Russell.
was on last month. Sean did a great job last month, by the way. And I think you guys did bring up Wonder Twins, didn't you?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Maybe you guys did. But so I want to make sure that I remember to order Wonder Twins because it, again, is Mark Russell on something I'm not sure if it's going to be more kid-oriented and what Mark Russell will do if he's more kid-oriented.
Right. Well, this one strikes me as being more kid-oriented than perhaps the Second Coming book that we discussed earlier.
Well, yeah, the Second Coming. I was thinking of Wonder, but this is under the Wonder Comics rubric.
Right.
Rubric or label. And we're uncertain whether Wonder Comics is all aimed at kids or not.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I did manage to read the first Young Justice, which is a Wonder comic, with my daughter, and she enjoyed it greatly.
Oh, good.
They did use the word ass a lot, which is a little weird to read out loud to my daughter.
Well, you didn't censor that part?
She's looking right over my shoulder and, of course, can read better than I can. But sometimes I jokingly to her said, get off my donkey or whatever.
Did
she correct you?
And then when she goes, she goes to school for the spelling test. Spell donkey, A-S-S. Oh, God.
Oh, jeez.
She calls it a $.
Ah, there you go.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
Excellent.
But we read these British comic novels by P.G. Wodehouse to each other. And they use the word ass all the time because in England, the word ass is not as rude as it is in the United States.
Right, yeah.
So we have a long-standing joke about. I'm sorry?
Where do you obtain those?
They're not comic books; they're novels by P.G. Wodehouse.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And, so just a library, or just get them at the bookstore or something?
You can get them at the bookstore or the library. I actually download them on Kindle because you can usually get them for 99 cents or something. They're the Wooster and Jeeves novels, and they're wonderful read out loud books. They're hilarious when you read them out loud because it's all just a narrator who is very unintelligent, but somehow has a huge vocabulary. Because it's all narrated by Wooster. So anyway, that's my tangent for the evening, or one of them.
Isn't that a British? Didn't they make that into a TV show?
Yeah, they made it into a fairly pleasant BBC TV show, which is fun, but it's not as funny as the books because the books have this hilarious narration, which of course you don't have a narration.
Right. Is that the one with Hugh Laurie, or am I thinking of
Hugh Laurie and what's his name? That big star in England plays the butler. It'll come to me. But
so that is the show I'm thinking.
Yeah. So you may have seen it, but the books that it's based on are just wonderful to read, especially read out loud.
Another good recommendation. Thank you.
Anything else for you guys? My next thing is on page 66, so there might be other stuff before that.
Okay. Carry on, guys.
Well, I have a rant about on page 60 here.
Oh boy.
So here's a new collection of All-Star Superman. This is a hardcover edition. I got two things to say about this. One, they just put out a trade paperback just a few months ago under the Black Label imprint, right? And now hardcover.
Well, that might be a sign that All-Star Superman is selling very nicely.
Well, yeah, as it should. I mean, it's an incredible Superman story, but I would have loved to have gotten this hardcover as opposed to.
Oh, did you buy the paperback?
I bought
already?
the Black Label trade, and it really bugs me that it says Black Label on it. I don't know why. Okay,
because it's such a non-Black Label book.
Exactly.
So this one is under a better label because it's called DC Modern Classic, which is the right thing to call it.
Thank you. So this is the second part of my rant. So I saw that, I'm like, DC Modern Classic. Well, duh, of course it is. But then I'm going through the rest of the trades in here in the DC previews catalog, and I start noticing these other labels that they have for all their stuff. So they've got that, like I said, they got the Black Label, this DC Modern Classic. They have the DC Essential Edition. They have deluxe editions, omnibuses. What? Why?
They've gone insane with different labels for their trades.
Exactly. I'm quite irritated about this, and I'm not exactly sure why.
Maybe this is another sign of the new big honcho who's taken over DC, who's known as a great marketer and brander.
Good point.
Maybe she likes lots of brands on things.
Very good point.
Yeah, it's particularly like a DC Essential Edition and then DC Modern Classic. You know, what's the difference there? Right. The next thing I marked in the catalog is on page 66. It's the DC poster portfolio from Jim Lee. And I'm not sure if I'm going to get this, but I like the idea of poster portfolios. I have a great poster book of DC from their, I think, 50th anniversary or 60th, one of their anniversaries. So I'm always on the lookout for more of these kind of poster books. So I might. This is something I'd probably flip through if I find it at a store and see if it has the kind of Jim Lee that I like. I like some Jim Lee, but I'm not all in for Jim Lee.
Yeah. I actually got the New 52 portfolio book that they came out with, but I only got it because it was on sale. It was on clearance actually at a Hastings in where I live, and so yeah, I was able to pick that up really cheap. And I'm like, yeah, that was a good price for this.
Yeah, it is the kind of thing that if you see on a remainder pile at a bookstore, then that becomes a no-brainer.
Yep.
But I don't know. I love coffee table books, giant art books, poster books, so I always keep my eye out for that.
On the next page, 67, the Flash Green Lantern, the Brave and the Bold Deluxe Edition hardcover. This is by Mark Waid and Tom Peyer, writers, and Barry Kitson and Tom Grinberg art. So I don't know, just Mark Waid and Barry Kitson together doing JLA, because they did JLA year one, right? I think it was Barry Kitson on it.
Yes, I think Barry Kitson, yeah.
So, teaming up again to do this long-standing Silver Age friendship from DC Comics. This is a story. It's a 6-issue collection. I've never read this, so I'm really tempted to get this, even though it's a deluxe edition hardcover for $35.
My hesitation with DC deluxe editions is they tend to have really bad binding.
Oh, are those the ones?
The glued binding, even though they're hardbacks.
Oh.
Now, maybe they fixed that, but it would be something I wouldn't buy till I got a close look at it.
I'm gonna have to go look at the deluxe edition hardcovers I do have from them to see. Anyway.
Yeah.
And Tom Pyre now has moved on to Ahoy Comics. Doing
Yes,
great work
he's
over
kind
there.
of the big guy at Ahoy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I knew his name was familiar, but I never sort of focused on what he did until Ahoy has really caught my attention.
Okay. Anything else for DC?
My next thing's on page 72. Have you guys got anything before then?
Nope. Go ahead.
Well, very quickly on page 68, a Brian Michael Bendis book, again doing stuff for DC. This is a collection of a miniseries, Fortune and Glory, a true Hollywood comic book story. And it looks like it might be his own, here it is, his own personal tale of the enthralling mood swings and ego nosedives of an indie comic book creator caught up in the maelstrom of the motion picture industry. So I guess if you want a little bit of the behind the scenes of how a comic creator can make the transition to get their product, their creations onto the big or small screen, this might be an interesting read. It was apparently a 3-issue miniseries. And this edition, this trade paperback, has 24 pages of bonus material and an introduction by Paul Dini. It's $14.99 at 160 pages. That could be interesting to some of the Brian Michael Bendis fans.
I've never seen comics drawn by himself. That he drew by himself.
Yeah, this is unusual that he's doing this. I've read some of his earlier stuff that he did himself, but it's been a very long time since he's actually. I think it's been a very long time since he's actually published anything that he's drawn.
So do you think this is something from back in the day when he used to do his own drawing, or something he did more recently and came back to drawing?
I think, total guess on my part, I think this probably has to do with when he was doing the Powers TV show for PlayStation.
So relatively recent then.
But I could be wrong about that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And also his involvement with the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Right. So, that is tempting, actually. That might be something I would look for at the library. Mm-hmm. Give it a try, see if it's fun. If I love it, maybe buy my own copy. But otherwise, just to sort of get the inside scoop a bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have this, but if somewhere on my library's website, I can request a book, and they'll go out and buy it.
Really?
And every time I've requested one, they went out and bought it.
Bought it, not necessarily got it from another library. They actually
they actually bought a copy and then sent me an email when the copy arrived in their system.
What
and so the last book I did that on
Hoopla.
was, I'm sorry, say that again, George.
What on like over here they use Hoopla at my library. What do they use by you?
Oh, we have Hoopla also, but this is for physical books. I just go to the regular library website and they have a section called Request a Book.
No way.
That's amazing.
So last time I got them to get the hardback of DC Before Superman.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I didn't want to buy it. It was like $50, but I wanted to see what's DC Before Superman.
Well, now, Damian, you did buy it.
I bought a small percentage of it because I am a loyal taxpayer.
That's right.
I do not dodge the taxes.
I wonder if all libraries do this. I'll have to check my library.
No kidding.
So search around your library's website, see if they do that.
Yeah.
Pretty sure mine doesn't. Very small town, very little money.
Idaho does not like taxes, I bet.
Yes, there's that too.
Well, anybody who listened to my old show, I had on my local librarian on one episode. His name is Jason, and he is heavily into graphic novels. He goes to the small press convention that we have here. I forget what time of year it is. Maybe it's in the fall. I'm not sure. But he drops a pretty penny at the small press. He checks out all the new creators out there, and he has developed a nice graphic novel section, not only in the adult section but for the kids. So
nice.
Yeah, so our library is pretty good, but I would wonder if there was a title you were interested in, a graphic novel or prose, if the library would go out and get it. So I'm going to check my library.
Yeah, I mean, I bet a lot of libraries do that. And it probably, Eric was saying he has a small library, and the bigger library obviously has more money to spend. And our library is like a county-wide library system, and it's a fairly, populous and well-heeled county.
Yeah. All right, what's next, guys?
I'm done with DC.
So I just circled Plastic Man is coming out in a trade paperback by Gail Simone and Andrea Mello. I thought it was by Aaron Lopresti. I didn't realize that it was only the cover by Aaron Lopresti. I did not. I like the character Plastic Man, but I was cautious about getting it for some reason. But now that it's in trade, I'm kind of curious to give it a shot. So I'll probably buy that trade. Well,
I'm curious what you think of it, because Plastic
Man. Did you read it?
No. Oh. No, but it's Gail Simone. So I'm very interested, but Plastic Man is not my stretchy hero choice, preferable choice. So I never cared for that.
So many choices.
I like
elongated
Ralph
man,
Dibny.
right?
Yeah. He's my preferred.
Did he ever have his own comic book?
He had a miniseries at one point in the 80s.
Okay.
Okay, well, it's the three of us now, because now here's a differing opinion. I like Plastic Man, but I didn't like the miniseries.
Yeah. Well, it was not a good miniseries.
So you read this miniseries. You don't recommend it.
Yes. And from the beginning, I didn't like it from issue 1, but knowing it was a miniseries, I went along with it. And it didn't get any what I felt wasn't the voice of Plastic Man, although maybe that is the voice, but I never viewed Plastic Man in the way that he was portrayed in the book. And it didn't seem to change throughout the 6 issues. Now, I guess I shouldn't say this, considering Gail Simone will be at All-Star Comic Con in June, and I probably will see her there, but I doubt if she will listen to this or even care that one particular book. And this is an example of not everything by a particular creator that you like happens to hit.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And a lot of Gail Simone hasn't hit for me recently, which is probably why I didn't get it in single issues. Now that you've given that opinion, I think I might get it from the library. And again, if I love it, I can always go out and buy it afterwards. But Plastic Man is one of those characters that I kind of crave something really good about, but I don't always expect them to hit the mark very well.
I'm usually in the minority, though, so don't let me get there.
I liked him a lot in the Brave and Bold TV show. He seemed to show up a lot on that.
That's probably the last time that I actually moderately tolerated that character.
I have one more thing marked in here. The page number is not apparent. I guess page 86 and 87. The Sandman Overture Gallery Edition. And I'm not sure if I'll get it, but I'm thinking about it seriously, because I get a lot of those artist editions. I love, again, giant books. And, J.H. Williams' artwork at that size is very tempting.
Oh, yeah. Did you read the original series? The Overture series?
You know what? I haven't.
Ah, well then this
I was
perfect.
planning to buy the deluxe edition, and I got it out of the library first and saw the horrible binding. And J.H. Williams has 2-page spreads all over the place. So that gutter loss, as they call it, is a real loss with someone like J.H. Williams. So then I went and I started collecting back issues. I thought, well, I will read it in floppies after all. But I think I'm still missing one issue, so I haven't read it yet as I look around for the one issue I missed.
So are these gallery editions? Do you have some of those, or is the binding sufficient?
That's a good question, but I assume it is. I have the IDW equivalent, and those always have great binding. I have not seen the ones that DC does themselves.
Okay.
Is there even a price here?
Yeah.
$150. Ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah. I may just read it in my floppies.
Well,
but I'm tempted,
It's also,
if I see it on sale somewhere, perhaps.
Yeah. Well, so just so people know, this is limited to 2,000 copies, which might have to do with the price. And then also, it says all prior orders have been canceled, so they're resoliciting this.
Huh.
And for an on sale date in May.
Oh yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah, so maybe they had problems printing it at first,
or they didn't get enough orders. I don't know. Throw on a limited to so many copies, and then suddenly it becomes a collector's item.
Uh-huh. Or if all 2,000 sell out, then they'll print more.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, things like this don't usually sell in large numbers. There's only a few collectors out there who want to spend $150 per book.
You're right.
And so by saying it's 2,000 copies, that entices a few more collectors of limited edition books to be tempted, I would think. Anyway, that interested. And that's it for DC. And that's actually the last page of the DC catalog.
So IDW is next. I only have 3 things here. So who wants to go here first? I got something on page 158 starting out.
Go for it.
I have no IDW. So.
Okay. Well, this might be quick then. People who listen to the show should know that I love Star Trek, and I've been missing my Star Trek comics. But since they stopped the wonderful series that they did from that followed the movie characters, but they have these Waypoint specials. I just read the first one that they released not too long ago, and here's the Waypoint special 2019. So I'm looking forward to that.
I'm going to be dumb. What is Waypoint?
That's just the name that they're using to just have a bunch of different stories from different eras of Trek. So you'll have a story from Next Gen, original series, Deep Space Nine, or whatever. So I don't know that it actually has anything to do with Star Trek in story. That's just the marketing name for this thing.
Mm-hmm. Interestingly, 2 of these people working on it, I've seen a lot of indie self-published books by Matt Sheehan and Malachi Ward. They do kind of unusual indie-style science fiction.
Well, good. That fits this bill, I guess.
Yeah. Huh. And it says, it's an $8 book.
Yeah.
48 pages. But you're passing on Star Trek versus Transformers?
Yeah. So, yeah, I think George and I talked about this before, but because this is the trade for this. And,
it's the trade, yeah.
It being the animated series version of the original cast, I would have totally have gotten this, except for the fact that it's Transformers. I have no connection whatsoever to the Transformers, so it just does not interest me.
Yeah, that's a very different generation than Star Trek the Animated Series.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a real soft spot for that animated series too.
Mm-hmm. All right, what's next? George, do you have anything for IDW?
I have a couple. I just wanted to call out if anybody watches the Netflix show Glow, IDW in their vast licensing binge that they have the rights to Glow, and they've made a comic book out of it. So $3.99 by writer Tina Howard with artist Hannah Templer.
What page is that on?
151. I don't have Netflix, so I don't watch Glow, but I know I'm in the minority there. So anybody out there who watches the show might want to check this out.
I've never seen the show either, but I've heard people who like it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not necessarily calling out the title, although it might be good for kids, but on page 167, Goosebumps. Horror of the Witch House #1. The only reason I call it out is because the main character is Veruca Curry. And as Willy Wonka fans, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory fans may know, that is probably a parody of Veruca Salt. So I just wanted to call that out. Veruca Curry is probably the Veruca Salt, just from another part of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's such a distinctive first name that you have to wonder, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would assume something like that eventually sells well in trades, but probably doesn't sell that many individual issues.
Yeah, I would guess. What are some of the other ones in IDW, Eric?
Well, George, I mentioned this some previews episodes ago, and I've been patiently waiting for the trade collection of this. This is J.M. DeMatteis's and Mike Cavallero. Yeah, Cavallero's Impossible Incorporated finally gets the collection.
Me too.
Now I can buy it and read it.
I have been seeing it on the shelf at Comic Logic. When you ring that bell again, another angel got its wings, and I have been waiting patiently for this also. It is a trade paperback at $12.99 with 120 pages.
Yeah,
for May release, though, not in March.
Yeah, that's true. It's interesting that it's a 6x9 too. Either way, I'll get it.
Is that a little bigger, 6x9, or a little smaller?
A little smaller.
A little smaller.
Yeah, I think they're definitely going for the children's section book market sales.
On the facing page on 173, Enola Holmes, The Case of the Left-Handed Lady. I think this is the second Enola Holmes mystery they've done, but it's advance solicited for June release. But apparently Stranger Things star Millie Bobby Brown, who played 11, is set to star in and produce a feature film about Enola Holmes, Sherlock Holmes' sister.
That might be fun.
And I'm a sucker for Sherlock Holmes-related stories, so this could be pretty interesting.
Yeah, me too.
And both those books are certified cool. That's the marketing label at the top there. Apparently certified by Fonzie.
Mm-hmm.
Before he jumped the shark.
On page 179, another great Yo book, Matchless Beauties, The Art of Pin-Up Matchbook Covers. Now, just when you thought there was a book about all sorts of art, the pin-up art from matchbook covers.
I had no idea there were matchbook covers.
Yeah. 208 pages. Nice.
Oh my God.
$30 though.
Well, actually, on that very same page is one I did mark. I didn't realize I did mark a IDW one. Roy G. Krengle, Father of Heroic Fantasy, a Centennial Celebration. It's a bit on the pricey side, so I may not get it. But as a kid, when I loved fantasy novels, I remember the illustrations of Roy Krengle. He was very associated with Edgar Rice Burroughs, amongst other things. So I don't know if you guys remember that, or you might not be as old as I.
Well, I mean, I see who he influenced. Frank Frazetta, Al Williamson, Mike Kaluta, Jeff Jones. So even if we're not familiar with him, we're familiar with some of his fans.
I believe he was a friend of Frank Frazetta's and is the one who got him into doing paperback fantasy novel covers. Roy would pass on work to him. And I, as a kid, had a lot of books that not only had covers by Roy Krengle, but he often did interior illustrations. So anyway, this would maybe be one to buy when I'm feeling rich, or get the library to get.
Yeah.
Library.
I love the library. And just to let you guys know, on the next page, 180, I enjoyed the series Punk's Not Dead. Punk's Not Dead is back. London Calling #2 by David Barnett and Martin Simmons. The first series, the first arc of this was fun, and I look forward to reading the next arc.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
And next to that is Femme Magnifique, 10 Magnificent Women Who Changed the World. So this is I think essentially an excerpt from the 50 Magnificent Women Who Changed the World, which is a 240-page paperback, where this is a 36-page $5 offering. So they're splitting it up into smaller chunks, I guess. But still interesting focuses on various women.
I'd be very curious to see Hillary Rodham Clinton done by Elsa Chartier.
Yeah.
One of the artists that I like quite a bit, but
Yes.
It's hard to picture her doing
Yeah.
that kind of bios thing.
And that does it for me for IDW.
Same here.
I'm all done with them, yeah.
All right. So Marvel is up next.
Are they? Okay.
And surprisingly, I had more things to talk about on my list from Marvel than I did from DC, which is usually very unusual.
Well, I noticed when going through DC, there was lots and lots of stuff that's ongoing that I am reading, but there wasn't a whole lot of new things.
Yeah.
Well, there are a lot of events going on at Marvel now. Are you interested in some of these events, Eric? Is that what made you go toward Marvel more this month?
No, actually, it was just unusual things or new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean they've been hyping the War of the Realms that starts in April, which I'm going to get because it's Jason Aaron and Russell Dodderman, Matt Wilson doing, Marvel U stuff spilling out from the Thor books. So yeah, of course I'm going to get that. But I thought starting off with on page 7 is they're doing another Kraven the Hunter story in the Spider-Man books. And I don't know, this is not something I'm interested in reading, but it's, I always go back to Kraven's Last Hunt, which is a classic story that I got while it was coming out. And I thought, that, I know it's comics, it's, characters go away and they come back, but it's like, that was Kraven. He was done after that story. So any other Kraven story after that, and I will admit, I've not read a whole lot of Spider-Man stories, let alone Kraven stories in Spider-Man, but I can't imagine that anything would be as good as that. So yeah, this is a call to the listeners if they well, maybe even Matt would know, right, Damian?
Yes, he would know.
Yeah,
if anyone would.
Well, this is his son, right?
Is it?
Well, because his son been kind of like a supporting character in Unbeatable Squirrel Girl?
Yeah, I think you're right. Either way.
Well, it surely won't be the Kraven from Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, who
not at all.
Who was convinced to be a good guy after sent off to hunt leviathans under the water.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. It's going to be a totally different Kraven than that.
All right. What
else
you guys got?
On page 10, I am considering getting Age of Conan Ballet. I'm not sure, though. I don't know much about the writer Teenie Howard. And the art shown is just covers by other artists, not by the interior artist. So I think it's something I'd have to flip through before I decide to read or not.
Yeah, I don't like it when they show us a little bit of what the artist is going to offer us instead of, pretty covers.
Right. Especially with a brand new comic that you haven't read before. And it's not like Kate Nimzik, the artist, is like a well-known name that, oh yeah, of course I'll get anything drawn by her. The two covers they show are wildly different in style.
Yeah.
But neither of them are by Kate with the unpronounceable last name.
Since I have you both here to ask, do you find it at all interesting that nobody could have cared less about Conan when it was being published by Dark Horse all these years, but now that it's back at Marvel, all of a sudden everybody's all excited about it?
I do find that interesting.
Isn't that just nostalgia?
Think it's a tribute to the Marvel PR machine, I would think.
Yeah, well, is it really nostalgia? Because you could have been nostalgic for the past 10, 15 years at Dark Horse.
Yeah, but
and there were good writers on Conan back then too.
Sure.
But nobody was talking about it.
but there's a lot of people, I think, who perhaps are nostalgic for the Marvel Conan stuff.
I guess, but I guess my point is it's not like he went away. You know what I mean? It's not like there was a 10 or 15 year gap. People could have had their Conan stories. Everybody's making it sound like that gap, that there were no stories all these years.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Marvel's clearly playing on the nostalgia side because they're reprinting, in their True Believer series, like 15 different Conan issues.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
So I think, they're really good at the hype. They know people are excited that, at first anyway, that Marvel's back, that Conan's back at Marvel. So they're pushing all these books out while the hype is still strong. I bet a year from now we'll just have one Conan book. But right now we're having at least three,
if we even
not
have
even
one.
more. Yeah, if we even have one. Good point. But I have been suckered into reading both Conan the Barbarian and ordering Savage Sword of Conan, even though I have my doubts.
Mm-hmm.
I do have to say, when he was at Dark Horse, they put really great creators on him at first, and then over time, lesser and lesser creators.
Okay.
So there probably was some hype when he first came to Dark Horse.
Okay.
And then the interest probably petered out, and they spent less money on it.
Yeah, I guess you're right about that.
But the level of hype here has been very high. I think Marvel excels at selling, the first few issues of a comic, and then they don't do much else afterwards.
Well, let's face it, they're putting him in the Avengers crossover, right?
Yeah,
I know, and I marked that just for its freakishness.
Well, I was a big fan of Avengers No Surrender last year.
Right.
If anything, I think that was one of my favorite stories that I read all year. And to see the same team,
right,
with Avengers No Road Home, I'm excited about it. Al Ewing, Mark Waid, and Jim Zub. I feel they can't do any wrong with their storytelling together. So I'm all in for this Conan guest appearance or not.
So you can tell us how that Conan guest appearance goes.
Yeah. So it's a weekly series, and apparently, I don't know if he's in both 6 and 7, but he's at least in issue number 6. And if you're to believe the cover, it looks like he meets the Scarlet Witch.
Well, that makes sense. Sword and sorcery.
Yeah. So I'm in.
Yeah. Well, that's another sign that Conan is being hyped at the moment. A year from now, they probably won't think of putting him in the Avengers.
Well, I was listening to something, and I never gave it any thought, but some other podcast, I wish I could remember which one, but somebody brought up a good point. You spend all this money for the license, put as much product out as you can to recoup that money. And of course, with the hype, like you're saying, Damian, now's the time. A year from now, that interest will wane and they may not be able to get their money back. So that's why I guess we're seeing all this stuff.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and I guess even though I'm complaining about, I did a rant video on Conan number 1.
Did you really? I got to go check it out.
But even though, I called it, this is not my Conan, get off my lawn.
That sounds right up my alley.
but I still am affected by the hype, and Conan is like filling my brain right now. Me and Matt just recorded an episode about Conan, which will be up soon in the podcast world. So anyway, it's
cool. Can't wait to hear that.
Funny how the brain. I have a lot of Conan nostalgia. It's funny how the brain can be affected by hype. You would think it's so obvious that they're just hyping you.
Cool.
So what do you guys have next after Conan and the Avengers?
What do you?
Well, Eric, let's let you go. You don't usually have a lot of Marvel, so I'm very interested to hear what you got.
What do you guys think of this Spider-Man life story miniseries by Chip Zdarsky and Mark Bagley?
What page is that?
That is 20 and 21.
It's very interesting. Very interesting concept. Looks like 40 pages at $4.99 each.
Well, this is the first issue is oversized. It says.
Oh, they won't all be like this. You don't think?
I don't think so. No.
Oh, okay.
And is each issue going to feature Spider-Man of a different decade?
I believe so. Yeah.
Spider-Man Life Story 1, the 60s.
Mm-hmm. And from the way I read it, I think he actually ages. It's not like Archie comics up until now, where Archie just went from decade to decade as a teenager. Here we will see him age over 60 years.
Okay, now I'm very curious.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'll wait for a trade on something like this, but it seems it's almost like an Elseworlds or something.
Yeah.
And it's intriguing because Spider-Man was one of the first characters whose life seemed to change. He went from high school to college to graduate school to career. So to just have him actually age in real time is very intriguing.
Yeah, I like that concept.
I am no longer a Mark Bagley fan, but maybe I can learn to like him again. I used to like him, but then I stopped.
That's the one impediment to me wanting to buy it. But the preview art they have here, the black and white preview art, looks pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I think that's something I'm very, very likely to get in trade. Any of you going to get? Are you going to get it, George? I almost called you Tony.
Oh, that's fine. That's understandable. But no, I am not going to get it.
Of course, you're not adding new comics to your lists.
Well, like I've said on a preview shows plenty of times before. 20, teenage me, 20-year-old me, maybe even 30-year-old me might have been all over this. But where I am right now, nah. If I'm going to get my comics, I'm going to put that money elsewhere right now. Not to deter any of the listeners. I know the previews guys are not going to be and Marvel are not going to be very happy about things I say, but that just because I'm not going to buy it doesn't mean it's not quality work. It looks like it will be a very, very interesting read.
George encourages you to spend your money, just not his.
That's right. And again, have a podcast about it so I can listen to it and live vicariously through all of you.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. All right. Ms. Marvel's getting a new number 1, but I'm going to skip that real quick because I want to know about this Meet the Skrulls number 1 and 2 of 5.
Yeah.
I'm very curious about this one, too.
I mean, doesn't it seem like it's like 5 or 7 years too late? Like it should have been part of Secret Invasion?
Well,
yes.
Except I think this is some sort of weird tie-in to the Captain Marvel movie.
I guess that's the only reason something like this would come out, right?
I almost feel like this is something that I would have expected to see the name Mark Russell attached to, or that it will be some kind of unusual social satire using Skrulls.
Then I would definitely buy it.
I'm not familiar with the writer Robbie Thompson. He might be a great writer. I don't read enough Marvel. I think he's only written for Marvel. But.
Robbie Thompson of Spider-Man / Deadpool fame.
That doesn't tell me much.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. What about
this? Is one I'll probably read on Marvel Unlimited when it comes out there.
Yeah.
Oh, you have Marvel Unlimited?
I get it Marvel Unlimited.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
That's where I read a lot of my Marvel.
All right. What else, guys?
The next one I marked was page 27.
Yeah.
Just to mention it, Cosmic Ghost Rider destroys Marvel history, 1 of 6. I heard someone hypothesize that they were going to use the Cosmic Ghost Rider destroying the Marvel history to reboot their universe.
Yeah, I heard that too.
I'm not sure if they're really doing that because it looks too jokey.
No.
But that's an intriguing idea that a way to reboot a universe would have one character sort of go off the rails and just rewrite everything.
So do you think is the Cosmic Ghost Rider the new Deadpool of Marvel Comics?
I'm afraid that's happening, yeah.
Yeah.
So I like Cosmic Ghost Rider written by his original creator, Donny Cates, but as they are having other people take him over, I'm having a feeling that I won't. He'll just be the wacky Deadpool-like character of a sort that I don't really care one way or the other about. So anyway, that's intriguing, but not something I'm going to get.
Yeah.
What else is interesting, you guys?
Eric? Is there more?
Well, just on page 57, this is Fantastic Four number 8. It's not so much the comic itself, but man, that variant cover by Bill Sienkiewicz of Invisible Woman.
Yeah, it's nice.
I'm glad I'm getting this series at least up through the second storyline, and I'm sure as hell try and get that Bill Sienkiewicz cover.
Now, I can't tell. I know a lot of Marvel variants cost more money.
Yeah, I got to check on that. I'm guessing it will be a little bit more, or maybe even a lot more. So if it is, I won't be getting it. But because I hate to spend more than, even a little bit more than the usual price for a variant cover.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I mean, to me, unless you're going to hang it on your wall, I just want to pay the regular rate.
Yeah, I was just having this discussion today with Rob at Comic Logic, my local shop. There's the bell again. They have a love-hate relationship with variants.
Yep.
And he was telling me about some of his customers that are, really heavily into them. And I asked whether or not he knew if they display them, like you said, Damian, if put them on the wall or something. And he said, no, some put them on the wall, but for the most part, as far as he knows, they just go right into the long box. And I think that's a shame because it is almost like you're paying the extra so you have a piece of artwork, so you may as well display it.
Right.
Just like you should display every Alex Ross cover, like on page 41, The Immortal Hulk number 15 with Doc Samson psychoanalyzing the Hulk on the couch. We always used to joke around on my show, getting Tony on the couch. Here we have the Hulk on the couch, and I might buy this issue just to see what the psychoanalysis of the Hulk is from Doc Samson.
It looks like they have a main cover of that Hulk by Alex Ross and then a variant cover by Alex Ross.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to wonder, how can Alex Ross do so many paintings?
It's amazing.
He's on so many Marvel covers lately.
I know.
It's a little mind-blowing. It used to be you'd see an Alex Ross every few months, and now it's like 10 Alex Ross covers a month. I wonder if he's using assistants.
You know what? That would make sense. But I'm not one of those people who complains about Heroes in Crisis. But I had expected Heroes in Crisis to be more of a total. I guess it is a psychoanalysis of the characters, but I didn't expect it to be a murder mystery. I thought it was going to be more of a more like the way the confessionals are. I expected more of that. Not that I'm disappointed that it's not that way. It's just that that's what I was expecting. And what I'm hoping is this issue is almost like the way I expected the entire Heroes in Crisis to be. Again, I'm not complaining about Heroes in Crisis. I know some people have problems with it, which I don't understand, but to each his or her own. Believe me, I'm a curmudgeon about so many things. I can't, tell anybody not to be a curmudgeon about something. But this issue here specifically makes me interested in this psychoanalysis session. And as a one-off for me, I might pick it up.
So you're not regularly getting Immortal Hulk?
I am not, no.
Are you, Eric?
I got the first trade.
Trade.
And ordered the second one. And yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Al Ewing is one of my favorite writers.
Judging from a consensus of people I watch on YouTube talking about comics, it seems like everyone's favorite Marvel comic right now.
Really?
And I've just started reading it on Marvel Unlimited, and they only have 2 issues there so far, and I've really enjoyed it. So I'm really looking forward to getting in more. Maybe I should buy the trades, even though I can read them digitally.
And just to catch up to where Eric was on page 44 and 45, it seems like we have a countdown to Iron Man 2020. The old concept, when did that start? In the 70s? So now that the year 2020 is approaching next year, it seems like they're setting Iron Man up to either become Iron Man 2020 or Arnold Stark is supposed to be 2020. I don't know what's going on here. But they 2020 approaches. So that's maybe a year's worth of storylines culminating in something at the end of this year or the beginning of next year. I don't know.
That might be something to
watch. Yeah, that might be something to watch. I've always kept in the back of my head saying to myself, what would they do when 2020 actually comes? And here they are. They're working on it.
It's like what they did in Star Trek when Khan took over the world. We just went, oh, different universe. Hey, speaking of impressive covers, we were talking about Alex Ross stuff. On page, what is it? 64. This is Doctor Strange number 12.
That was the next thing I marked. Yeah.
Oh my God. What a way to sell a comic book.
Yeah.
In this 2-page, you gotta turn the catalog 90 degrees
sideways.
Yeah, and open it up, and it's this huge. I thought at first it was an Alex Ross cover, but it's Jesus Saiz.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I thought it was too.
With a variant. Oh, that's a villain's variant. But never mind. But yeah, with Doctor Strange going up against Galactus, apparently.
Yeah, that's a really, really cool cover.
That is so cool.
Talk about selling a book.
I do have Doctor Strange on my pull list, and I've been enjoying it, although I'm falling a little behind on it.
This might get me to pick it up, to be honest with you.
But I would say if you can get it in trade or whatever, Mark Waid's run on it, it took me a little while to get used to what he was doing, but I've been enjoying it a lot, and it has this really amazing art by the cover artist, Jesus Saiz. But it looks like right in this upcoming issue, Barry Kitson is doing the art.
Yeah, either way. To me, either way is good. Either artist.
So it's had great art, and it's been a fun story. Although I don't know the Galactus angle yet. That's to come.
Hey, for all you guys, I just want to let everybody know, back on page 52, Spider-Man Deadpool, you might have missed it, but the storyline is called The Infinite House of Civil Yet Secret Crisis War Invasions.
Oh, good Lord.
Just in case anybody was interested in that.
I have to say, I'm so over Deadpool. I don't even think about getting comics with Deadpool in them.
Yeah.
But I'll watch the movies.
I have had recommended to me the Miles Morales Spider-Man series going on right now. I just noticed that here. I had it recommended to me because I was talking to Matt after getting all excited of watching Into the Spider-Verse. And saying, oh, that makes me feel like reading some comics related to it. And he recommended this just recently started series, Miles Morales Spider-Man, which looks like it's written by Saladin Ahmed, who I think is a good writer. I've only read his Black Bolt comic.
Oh, yeah. Travis says that was excellent.
Yeah, but I might seek this Miles Morales. I've never read any Miles Morales, but I liked that movie so much that now I'm a bit tempted.
I read Exiles. Exiles was fun. And he wrote that.
Okay.
What else, gentlemen?
Well, on page 88, 89 is Marvel Rising. This is a miniseries by Nyla Magruder and Roberto DeSalvo. Featuring a bunch of the female characters: Captain Marvel, Ms. Marvel, Squirrel Girl, America, Spider-Gwen in the background there. Some others on this other cover that they're showing, but
is this based on an animated TV show?
I think so. I mean, that's kind of the
which is why I've kind of avoid. I just assume things based on TV shows I'm not going to like, but maybe that's unfair of me.
Well, you both have kids in this demographic. Would they go for this?
Possibly.
Yeah, and that's why I've sort of wondered about it. Yeah. Actually, speaking of that, further back, let's see what page. On page 68. On The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl number 42 is the 50th issue of Squirrel Girl. And I do read Squirrel Girl and love reading it with my daughter. It's hilarious and very, very inventive. But it's the 50th issue of The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl. That's right. This issue, number 42, is our 50th. It says 42 on the cover, but that's only because we had 8 issues and then a second number 1 in our first year. So anyway, I thought that was an interesting benchmark, that Squirrel Girl has made it 50 issues so far, despite all its detractors.
Yeah. The Squirrel Girl solicits are always fun to read too.
Yeah, because they must be written by the writer of Squirrel Girl. Yeah. They have that flavor.
Do Do you read Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur too, or you don't do that? Because I actually read that one. Yeah,
Moon
I
Girl
like
and
that.
Devil Dinosaur is an excellent comic. I think I like that even more than my daughter does, although she likes it. It sometimes
I do read
sorry.
that one. Oh, I just wanted to let you know that I read that. I don't read Squirrel Girl, but I do read Moon Girl.
Yeah, they're very different comics, even though they both appeal to young girls, amongst other people. But I highly recommend Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur to anybody with kids, also. Or obviously you like it, and
Kid at heart.
I'm glad I have a kid that got me to read it. Let's put it that way. Has Maddie read Moon Girl?
No, not yet. I haven't bought. I've been meaning to buy the first trade so that we can read that together.
Nice.
I think it was good at the beginning, and I think it got even better.
Yeah, I haven't gotten bored of it yet. So
yeah.
I have one more thing in Marvel on 135. So if either of you have anything else between where we're at and there.
On 97, I'm going to probably get the Conan the Barbarian Omnibus.
Oh, nice.
Volume 2. Which will be mostly John Buscema, but there's some other people in there. There's Neil Adams in there and the like.
Oh, wow. Gil Kane, Neil Adams, and Rich Buckler.
Mm-hmm.
Those are some
There's
of my favorite
one
artists.
Rich Buckler issue. I know this period of Conan by heart. So it's totally double dipping for me. There's one Rich Buckler issue, and there's a one Neil Adams issue. I'm not sure how much Gil Kane, but it's mostly John Buscema.
Mm-hmm.
It's
What
all good.
was your next page, Eric? Was it 105?
135.
On 105, they have king-size Kirby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is going to be, I believe, as large as the Behold Galactus book, which was larger than my artist edition books. It's the largest comic book you could possibly imagine.
Holy cow.
And that one was only $50. I think they made a mistake on the pricing of it, which meant I got it for $25. But this time they're doing it for $100. But I think for me, it's still worth getting. And I'll no doubt get a 50% discount online. But the size of these books is staggering.
Well, yeah, the trim size
and the
is...
weightlifting possibilities are staggering.
The trim size is nearly 14 inches by 21, just over 21 inches.
Right, that sounds right.
Wow.
On the page prior to that, The World Outside Your Window, a reprint of a lot of comics that have real world issues tied to them. That span, all decades. So it's not just from now. It goes back, Spider-Man drug issue, Hulk issue where his friend is dying of AIDS, North Star getting married in X-Men, Iron Man, Demon in a Bottle, all those classics.
And calling Marvel the world outside your window, I think that's a famous quote from Stan Lee.
Yes.
The difference between DC and Marvel back in the day, in the Silver Age, was Marvel tried to reflect the world outside your window.
And going back to where you had king-size Kirby on the facing page, which I guess would be 104, Silver Surfer Parable, 30th anniversary hardcover by Stanley and Mobius, kind of in the vein of Moonshadow that we were talking about before. When Parable came out, I don't think I had ever seen anything by Mobius at the time, and that was a little eye-opening to me, introducing me to a new art style to me at the time. So if people haven't read that before, they might want to check that out.
Yeah, that's an excellent choice. I already have several copies of that, but
yeah,
I wonder how large it's going to be. It's pretty pricey. 88 pages for $40.
Yep. That might be the thing that keeps people away from it.
Marvel and pricing is sometimes problematic. So that's it for me. And you had something on 135?
Yeah.
135.
Marvel Universe, The End trade paperback. It's a new printing by, this is a story done by Jim Starlin. guess it was a miniseries. Somehow I totally missed this, and I love Jim Starlin Marvel Cosmic stuff, so that's definitely going on the list. But on sale in April, though.
And penciled by Jim Starlin, so that makes it an even bigger treat. I love seeing his own artwork.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know how I missed that one either. I wonder when it originally came out.
I was going to look that up myself.
Huh.
All right. Are we done with that?
Yes, sir.
Back to the big book.
Mm-hmm.
Dynamite's next.
I haven't even think Dynamite.
Anything there?
Nothing for me.
Yeah, I don't know why I don't have it marked, but didn't they start yet another $6 Million Man series?
I figured you might want to mention that, George.
Well, the only reason I mention it is because the whole concept of his parts, they almost compare his parts to being under warranty, and as time goes by, his $6 million parts depreciate. So at first I thought that the concept was he's now not in the 70s, he's in another time, but it seems like he is still in the 70s. But I have read one $6 Million Man miniseries before, and basically the old trope of depowering the hero was there also. So I wonder if they do that for all the $6 Million Man stories, where they take away some of his bionics so that he becomes a little more vulnerable to whatever the threat is.
I hate that trope. You know, they do that to Superman all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't understand why they.
I suppose it's writers feeling out of ideas or something.
Exactly. It's just laziness as far as I'm concerned.
Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because a different way to tell the story of, his bionics aren't working very well right now.
I was shocked to see there's a Barbarella / Deja Thoris series going on.
They'll combine
because I thought Barbarella was supposed to be a little classy. And the Deja Thoris comics that I've seen have all been far, far from classy.
Okay, Damian, you just said something that does not compute. Barbarella being classy?
Wasn't she going to be the classy, sexy comic? French, artistic, romantic.
From that perspective, I suppose.
A certain best friend of yours reads Barbarella. I hear him mention it.
I passed on the Barbarella holiday special. I was interested in picking it up because I never picked up a Barbarella comic, but I passed on it. I would be very interested if maybe it's in a dollar bin someday to pick it up. Just to let you guys know, in case you didn't know, Amy Chu is not writing Red Sonja anymore. It is Mark Russell, the aforementioned Mark Russell. And when did we mention him? In about hour 5 of this podcast? And he's writing Red Sonja. And number 2
making
is
some weird. Yeah, I have trouble. Despite my love of Conan, I have trouble reading Red Sonja comics.
Mm-hmm.
I have trouble, even though it's Mark Russell. I can't quite get over that hump. I have not put this on my pull list, but maybe I should.
He's like the hardest working writer in comics right now. Can't believe how many different titles he has.
And he's certainly not pigeonholed to one comic, one type. He's also, I think, in the middle of doing a Lone Ranger comic.
That's right. And in fact, I passed on that, but I might want to get the trade on that. I found the topic of that story pretty interesting, but I just had to pass.
Huh. Well, maybe I will get the trade on the Red Sonja by Russell.
All right, guys. Any other Dynamite stuff?
I have nothing.
Okay, me neither. Anything at Boom?
Boom, I have Firefly Bad Company. So they're expanding the Firefly comics. I only want to point this. I only want to point this out because this is a look at, or a never before seen history of one of the most beloved Firefly characters, Saffron. So we get to see her early life and her before her fateful meeting / marriage to Mal. So if you're familiar with the Firefly series and this particular character, this is something that might interest you.
I have not read any Firefly comics. Have you?
I'm getting the current Greg Pak written series. In fact, on the next page over on 215 is the hardcover collection of Volume 1. But yeah, I'm getting that monthly.
And that's been good?
I don't know yet. It's not bad, but it's not, it's not great. But that's always the problem I have with licensed material, because if you love the property, and I loved Joss Whedon's Firefly and Serenity movie, to a ridiculous degree, and then you go to read comics about it that, they just don't quite measure up because it's not the same voice. It's not the actors. It's, it's just this watered down version. But, Greg Pak is a good writer. So he's got the voice of the characters down. I'm not sure yet how I feel about this book.
Below the Firefly is something that shocks me. I had no idea Jordi Belair, the well-known colorist, is writing Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And it's illustrated by Dan Mora, who I know for doing the Claws comics with Grant Morrison. So, and he's a really good artist. So I'm just a bit shocked that those two are the ones currently doing Buffy.
Yeah.
I might want to check out their run on it. I love Dan Mora's art that I've seen. Then on the following page, speaking of Greg Pak, is one that I might sample called Ronin Island, which is a 5-issue miniseries. Boom is at their best with these original miniseries, in my opinion, from my experience reading Boom. And this is illustrated by Giannis. I can't pronounce his name. Milon Giannis. Giannis, who I believe was an artist on, what was the name of that? This Rob Liefeld property that was written by Brandon Graham. Prophet. I believe he was one of the artists on Prophet. I might have him confused with someone else. I don't know. But I think I may try to pick up the first issue of this and see how it looks. Because I really can't tell a whole lot from the preview here.
Okay. A couple pages. Oh, just the next page over, 218. This is another one of those where I've been waiting for the trade situation. And so Smooth Criminals, Volume 1. So this is a 12-issue miniseries that's still going on, because issue number 5 is solicited below that. But I just love the look of this book, the art that I've seen, and the whole idea that we get this 1960s international jewel thief who gets unfrozen in modern times. I don't know. Just that whole concept just sounds like fun.
The trick is, so I read issue 1 of this, and I enjoyed it a lot. But the weird thing is she's unfrozen in like the early 2000s.
Oh, weird.
When the internet is still kind of simpler. If you look at the cover picture there, the person with the computer in her lap has a very old Apple, one of the first Apple laptops.
You're right.
Maybe it's even in the 90s. So anyway, that was just an odd thing about it, but it is a very fun comic judging from that first issue. I think it was one of those things where I picked up the first issue and I was like, I'm enjoying this, but I'm getting way too many comics. So I'll just read it someday in the future.
Yeah.
So it might be but is the trade only 4 issues then?
Yep. Just 4.
Yeah, that's too bad.
4 issues for $15. I don't like that ratio, but
yeah. Sometimes Boom is less generous on their trades than the average publisher. But it will be a fun read.
Good.
I got lucky at my local Barnes & Noble. I was able to get the Abbott trade paperback for half price, so I got for like about $8. So I picked it up. Did you guys read Abbott?
No, I didn't.
Okay, I've heard good things about it, so I figured for $8, why not? Oh, and that was Saladin Ahmed also, I believe. I don't have it in front of me, but I think he wrote that, yeah. And then, of course, the sequel is going to be called Costello. Oh, jeez. Sorry, that's for all you folks in my demographic out there.
Yes. And the next one will be called Meets Frankenstein.
Yes.
That's my favorite Abbott Costello movie. And on the page following is the Grand Abyss Hotel, an original graphic novel, which caught my eye because it's drawn by David Rubin, who I've discovered through the Black Hammer series. So I'm guessing this might be a European graphic novel brought to the United States, but I'm not positive. But it looks kind of cool. So that's again with the trades or the graphic novels. I wait till they come out and then decide whether to get them.
Yeah, this looks interesting. A masked vigilante takes on the role of a hero to battle politicians, the erosion of democracy, and social media. Quite ambitious.
I like that title too, Grand Abyss Hotel.
Yeah.
I don't really know what it means, but it's cool sounding.
It sounds very cinematic.
Yes.
Anything else for Boom?
Not for me.
Yes. One more Boom that I marked, because it's written by Ryan North, the writer of Squirrel Girl, is Midas, which is coming out also, I think, as an original graphic novel. Unless it was a series. No, it was collecting a series that was 8 issues previously. So that's one I might take a look at, flip through, and decide if I want to get, because I'm interested in more Ryan North. But I think it's about a world where somehow Earth got turned to gold. And people are journeying back to Earth to check it out.
That's a weird concept.
Where the most powerful weapon in the universe is some ancient dead guy's body. So it seems like far future science fiction, but done in a jokey kind of way, which is Ryan North's thing, to be very jokey. That was my final Boom.
Okay. So on pages 242 and 243, previews. It says previews theme. Try something new in the new year. I just want to point this out because there's a bunch of different things that they're highlighting or spotlighting. 14 new titles, if I counted correctly. Check my math. But so if you're looking for something new and interesting, I guess here's a couple pages to point you in the right direction.
Do we want to talk about them here, or 2 of them are ones I've marked, further on. But I think I will be getting Sabrina the Teenage Witch because that looks all ages, so I'll be getting it for my daughter.
Okay.
And I will probably be getting The Life and Death of Toyo Harada from Valiant. And that's
do you get
written.
Any other Valiant books, Damian?
I kind of like right now I'm getting Exo Man of War. I don't get a lot of Valiant books at any one time, but I'm usually getting 1 or 2. And I've previously read and enjoyed when Joshua Dysart was on what's the name of that series? Harbinger. And Toyota Harada was the main villain of Harbinger. And with Dysart coming back and doing a miniseries about him, I thought that might be fun to check out.
Good.
And Harada's a villain who's trying to create a utopia, you might say. So that makes him interesting.
Yeah, I had Sabrina the Teenage Witch on here too to point out. Written by Kelly Thompson and Veronica Fish on art. I like Veronica Fish's art.
And Kelly Thompson is usually quite a good comedic writer, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that has a lot of potential.
Have either of you ever read The Goon?
Not me, no.
I have never read The Goon. I hear people rave about it.
Yeah. I've not read it either, and so but there's a new series here from Albatross Funny Books. New number
and
one.
Albatross Funny Books is the creator's own comic book company.
Right.
Eric Powell, I think his name is.
Isn't the Goon represented pretty much the last couple of? I'd have to go back to the front of the book for this year, but on Free Comic Book Day, isn't there?
I think so.
Usually something to. I mean, I've never picked one up, but I think, in fact, for the Halloween Fest this past year, they had Albatross Comics. I think had a weekly book called Spook House or Spooky House, and I think Eric Powell did it. I mean, I don't think the Goon was in it. I'm not quite sure what was going on, but I remember seeing it on the rack every week. It was a weekly book throughout October, kind of like the Witching Hour was at DC.
That rings a bell, George. Yeah.
So do you think you're going to jump on the Goon? Is he on your short list or your long list?
Oh, that'll be the long list. I would like to get a collection and read some other Goon stories just to get a sense of what this is about and why people seem to like it. And
at my comic book store, I saw on the shelves just this week that there were like 4 or 5 Goon library editions.
Okay.
Those huge dark.
There's that much of it, huh? Wow.
Yeah, so it's been around a long time, and it seems like every year there's a new Goon miniseries, and every time I don't jump on it, I have a resistance. I think just because of the title.
Oh yeah.
Do I want to read something called The Goon? Nah, not really. But it's probably me being totally unfair about it.
Oh, and it even says it right there, Free Comic Book Day participants. So yeah, I'm guessing the Goon, if you want to try it for free on Free Comic Book Day, you
I
could.
guess that's what I should do.
And I will point out, since I'm a huge fan of everything Ahoy has put out, their only solicit for this month is issue number 6 of Edgar Allan Poe's Snifter of Terror. And let me tell you, if you're only getting The Wrong Earth, which I think is the thing that's getting the most buzz among comics fans, you're missing out if you're not reading High Heaven, Captain Ginger, and Snifter of Terror.
Yeah, I have to say, I think High Heaven is my favorite of those, but I am reading all of them but Snifter of Terror. So maybe I should. That one's is that different stories every issue?
Yeah, it's an anthology.
So I could jump on that at any point.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I should add that to my list.
Yeah.
Because I also like short horror stories. Horror is a very good genre for short fiction.
What it winds up being, some are adaptations, a writer's take on a particular Edgar Allan Poe story, and then some are influenced by Edgar Allan Poe's work. So it goes both ways.
Well, so I was just reading the solicitation text for that issue, George. The tragic tale of Frankencherry tells the terrifying origin of the man-made monster who stays crunchy in milk.
Now, I will say this. I don't think this has anything to do with a previous issue I read, but there was a short story that included serial characters. And one of them was a Frankenberry stand-in. So I'm not sure what the name of the character was. I doubt it if they're bringing him back specifically for this, but it is funny that they did use serial characters in one of their stories as secondary characters.
Yeah. Now I want to read this.
Well, if we're on Ahoy, a little before it on page 251, I've circled the upcoming book from Ad House called The Freak. And I can't pronounce his name. Matt Lesnwinski, who I have met at Rose City Comic Con, has been self-publishing comics that are incredibly well drawn for a while now, and this is his first comic being put out by an actual publisher rather than himself. And so I'm definitely getting it. I follow him on Twitter, and I see all kinds of amazing artwork posted there. So if you're looking for people who are looking for something really different, his book, The Freak, promises to be interesting. And his art style is really not comparable to anyone else that I can think of. But it's a very indie art style.
Now, considering the cost of Alterna comics, they're on the newsprint, they're only $1.50 a piece. I have bought very few of these since they've been around, but there is one that I don't think you and Sean mentioned it last month, Eric, and I think this would be right up your alley. It's solicited on page 266. The Actual Roger #2. Fed up with being Magnanimo's unwanted sidekick and ridiculed by both heroes and villains, Roger has had enough. Is he really calling it quits even though it's just his second issue? The Actual Roger is created, written, and illustrated by Hank Tucker, who is the director of the Tick animated series.
Huh. Wow.
So you have somebody involved with the Tick animated series, and it's a sidekick. Right up your alley, Eric.
I'm surprised that's at Alterna and not something a little bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah. But for $1.50,
I have read about 4 different Alterna series, and only one of them really stacked up very well for me.
Yeah.
So the problem for me with Alterna is despite having 3 comic book shops within walking distance, none of them carry Alterna books. So you have to order them sight unseen.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So if I could flip through Alterna comics, I'd probably be buying a lot more. But to just try to guess from covers which ones I would like, it's maybe they're cheap, so it's maybe more a matter of spending too much time reading comics you didn't really want to read.
Right.
Ordered them ahead of time. I know you read at least one, The Amazing
Age.
Amazing Age, because I also read that one.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. And I could get that you kind of liked it, or at least you liked it at first, but it didn't work a whole lot for me as it went along.
Yeah. Yeah,
it was kind of amateur work, basically.
That's what I said on
talented amateurs, perhaps.
Yeah, that's what I said on the episode in which I highlighted that book. So I want to jump back though to page 244 real quick. Similar to my question to you guys about the Goon. Here's another long-time comic book property that I've never read, and this is Cerebus. Dave Sims' Cerebus. They have a new volume 1. It's a remastered edition. I was just curious if you guys have read any of Cerebus.
Yes, and I have that remastered edition.
Oh,
so it's not just released this month. I'm not sure what's up with that. And what remastered means is they lost all the original artwork and prints, and so they had to do, and it was, of course, from pre-digital days, so they had to digitize everything and fix it up.
Okay.
So it's a good deal. It's a huge, fat book. I think you can skip volume 1. And maybe
I didn't
start
turn
with
back
volume
to
2.
the page. If I recall correctly, usually they have a cover homage, as we like to call out on the show. Is this the one that has the almost like a 300 look to it? I'd have to go back to the page because I remember
244, the Cerebus page.
Let me see.
He has a Sin City in his current thing.
Yeah.
So he's currently he can't draw anymore, and he's currently doing a new comic book, which is collaged pictures with collage Cerebus put in. And it's more like a web comic or something that's been printed.
Does he have nerve damage or something?
Yeah, I think from, how damage to his hand or something.
Yeah. Isn't that what happened to Jim Starlin? Isn't Jim Starlin in the same boat right now?
Yes, I think so.
Can't draw anymore? Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it's identical problems, but similar idea anyway. Yeah. But with Cerebus, so the stuff published, the early issues were sort of amateur work as he was gaining his chops.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if you were to buy, right? He was doing a Conan pastiche for maybe the first 15 issues.
Yeah.
So if you were to buy this Cerebus Volume 1, at first you'd say, well, why do people say this is so great? It's like fan art about Conan. Right. But it slowly evolves and becomes better and better. So it depends on how dedicated you are and that you have to read from the beginning. But you might want to start with Volume 2, where he becomes a more mature writer and artist. And then Dave Sim went kind of crazy. So like the last 100 issues are supposed to be not so good. I never read that far.
It's funny. That's exactly the description I have read various places about Cerebus. So at least that it's consistent.
Yeah. He developed strange obsessions. Is often accused of being a misogynist and everything, but I think it goes beyond. It's not like an entertaining misogynist. It's more like he devoted his later issues to these strange screeds about strange religious and philosophical ideas rather than stories.
That is strange.
It's funny. He does videos on YouTube, and he seems like a really nice guy. On those
what are they about? Are they about his collages and like?
They're like updates for his fans on what's going on, his hardcore fans, what he's publishing lately, talking about these remastered editions, talking about other things. I'm not enough into him to watch all those videos, but they're genial. They're genial enough. He's not ranting against women or about religion or anything like that.
I don't take the time to watch too many YouTube videos, which is why my familiarity with what your output is, Damian, is more Never Stay Dead than all the content that you put out on your YouTube channel. So something like what Dave Sim is doing, I would never even know about.
Yeah, that's kind of a deep cut in terms of YouTube comic book stuff.
Well, back to the previews. I don't have anything till page 280.
I'm much later than that. So what do you got, Damian?
Well, since you guys already called out Sabrina, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, I just wanted to call out that they're collecting the Archie Meets Batman 66 into a trade. That was by Jeff Parker and Michael and Laura Allred. It was Jeff Parker and Michael Morikai on script. Dan Parent, classic Archie artist, did the art, and the covers were by the Allreds. And then there's also a trade paperback collection of The Man from Riverdale, Archie's take on The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Oh, I didn't even know that existed. I enjoyed Batman Meets Archie. That I get a lot of those Batman 66s, and that was good.
Same here. Okay, now Eric, we know that you're going to go to your favorite part of the book. So Damian and I will sit back so you can tell us all about Avatar Press and Stitched and Crossed and all your favorites.
When hell freezes over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I read 6 issues of Crossed because they were written by Alan Moore.
Oh, that's right.
But that was enough for me.
I think
I'm sure it was much tamer than what's normally in Crossed.
Yeah, I think I remember those, Damian. I looked at those thinking it's Alan Moore, but it's this. So I passed on.
He made up a new language for it, so that was interesting.
I don't mean to say anything bad about anybody who enjoys it, but definitely not my speed.
Nope.
Yeah.
Now I have something on page 307.
I have something on page 287.
Fantastic.
It's from Bantam Spectra, a science fiction prose publisher.
Oh, yeah.
It is a George R.R. Martin graphic novel called Starport. And it says Law and Order meets Men in Black, which isn't exciting me much. But I am curious what a regular science fiction graphic novel from George R.R. Martin would be like. I'd have to look closer, and I think it's an adaptation, perhaps, of a novella or something like that.
Eric, have we ever talked about this on any of our shows that we've done together? And Damian, I pose this to you too. Did either one of you ever read Wild Cards, which was edited by George R.R. Martin?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. I went through a period of really loving Wild Cards.
I love those books. Oh, they were great.
Yeah,
if anybody,
George is a big
hasn't
comic
read
book
them,
fan.
please do.
In fact, there was a podcast where they interview science fiction writers while eating lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Eating the Fantastic, it's called. And the one about George R.R. Martin was fascinating for comic book fans. It was all about his early days in comic book fandom and doing fanzines with Jim Starlin and people like that back in the early 60s.
I'll have to dig that one out. Nice.
So
you're full of great recommendations. Things I've never heard of before. Cool.
It's called Eating the Fantastic. It's interesting. Most of the interviews are with just straight prose people, but he also has interviewed Marv Wolfman and a few other people. A great interview with Levitz, Paul Levitz.
Yeah,
he knows them all personally. They're his friends.
And you get to hear them chew.
Yes, you get to hear a lot of eating noises.
I listened to the Marv Wolfman one because I wanted to hear what they had to say, and I could barely get through the episode because of all the dishes and just the eating. It just turned me off, which is too bad.
They're hard to listen to with headphones on, but if you're driving in your car, they're not so bad.
Oh, okay. Maybe I should try that.
And the Paul Levitz one, you really should try one more time for the Paul Levitz one.
Okay,
in my opinion.
That'd be one person I would want to give that podcast another chance for.
Yeah.
So.
And Paul Levitz really sort of gives his views on tons of things from comic book history and current comics, the state of the comic book publishing, you might say. So anyway, I'm kind of curious about this George R. R. Martin graphic novel. Another one that I would probably want to flip through and see if the art is okay. Right. Sometimes when they're just matching a regular writer, they just get the cheapest artist they can. If the person's not so savvy on the comic book publishing world.
That's usually when I go online to see if there's any preview art at all for these back of the previews books.
Mm-hmm. Well, you don't have the access to all the stores I do, so I just wait until I can see the physical book.
Right there on the shelf. Well, on page 307, Wimbledon Green hardcover by Seth. Meet Wimbledon Green, the self-proclaimed world's greatest comic book collector who brokered the world's best comic book deal in the history of collecting. And I didn't realize this was a biography about you, Eric. I didn't know you were also called Wimbledon Green. Mm-hmm. So that looks kind of interesting. Mature themes, 128 pages, 1995.
Oh, that's a cool choice. And I've always meant to read some Seth. I hear people in the indie comic world really rave about him.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever read anything by him. Yeah. All right, what else, gentlemen, as we go through the book?
I've only got two more things. So the first one's on 329.
Okay.
So this is Lion Forge. The book that they're hyping here is Stiletto, but what I want to point out is not that book necessarily, but there on this page is a note from Lion Forge. It says Lion Forge is proud to offer this book, Stiletto, the first entry in our new line of comics designed to bring a more fulfilling experience to serialized single-issue reading. We have carefully selected a group of amazing stories from some of the best and most exciting talent around. Each story contains those special hooks that make reading serialized issues so addicting. If you're the type of reader who, quote, waits for the trade, unquote, these single issues are designed for you. To which I respond, so what are you giving me?
Well, they're charging you $5.99, which immediately makes me a little wait for the tradie. Mm-hmm. But it is 48 pages.
Yeah. So it's just an oversized comic.
And it seems to be kind of a standard police procedural or police mystery kind of thing. Brutal slaying of two police officers guarding a material witness pins detectives Alphonse and Maynard against their toughest adversary yet. Sounds rather generic.
Yeah.
But it may be great. I don't know if I've read any Lion Forge.
I know George has, right?
Oh, yeah, the Ghost Money book. Oh man, what a great book that was. I can't recommend that. Ghost. It's another European book. It had been published elsewhere. I'm trying to remember now if it was French or I don't remember where it was published. But it was actually, in fact, I think I commented on this on the show, Eric. It originally came out with a lot of time in between installments, and I don't know how people kept up with it. It almost reminded me of the Jonathan Hickman Shield book, with the time in between some of these installments. And Lion Forge got it. They released it into 10 separate issues, and then they collected in one beautiful hardcover, which I got, and I enjoyed that. I immersed myself in that book. Artwork was fantastic. The story was great. It's one of those that I might actually reread sooner rather than later, and I don't reread a lot of stuff because I have a lot of things that have yet to be read, but I enjoyed it that much. And I wish I had in front of me to tell you the creators, but if anybody's looking for something, whether it be at your library or maybe your local store has it on the shelf, Ghost Money.
Ghost Money, huh?
Yep. Death in Dubai is the subtitle.
I had meant to try Infinity 8, which is written by Louis Trondheim, who's one of the most famous French comic book producers right now. I've just heard people talk about him on podcasts. I haven't read anything by Louis Trondheim. That's on a Lion Forge comic that's on number 10 now. So I might. That just reminded me of it. You talking about that and having Lion Forge in front of us.
Their kids' book, Encounter, is pretty good.
Yeah, I have marked that as a possible trade to get. Written by Art Balthazar and Franco, who have done great work in the past for kids.
Yeah. And I'm not even going to go into the details of the books, but I was intrigued by the humanoids section of the book that starts on page 320. Angel Claws, Simac, and Exo, all hardcover books at about $25, $20 to $25 a piece. The synopses in there are very interesting. If you're interested, just check it out at Previews. Humanoids, and they'll have some sort of thing on Free Comic Book Day. I'm not quite sure what they'll be previewing. I'm not going to come back to the beginning of the book, but Humanoids seems to be putting out some quality hardcover graphic novels.
I put a little mark by something called Neon Future from a label called Impact Theory. It's written by Jim Kruger, who I think he was involved with what was it called? That not Superpowers, but
Justice?
That Dynamite book that had. Was it called Superpowers?
Yeah, with Alex Ross.
With Alex Ross. I think he was Alex Ross's co-writer on that Superpowers.
Project
series.
Superpowers.
Project Superpowers.
Yeah.
So now there's this book called Neon Future. The world is in the grips of an economic crisis. Due to mass unemployment, advanced technology has been outlawed. The world is now divided between those with implanted technology and those without. So anyway, could be interesting science fiction, and just that name caught my eye. I think he's done a number of collaborations with Alex Ross over the years.
Yes, yeah.
He might have done Justice at DC.
Yep, he did.
This is a very obscure comic book publisher, so again, I don't know.
Well, it says also from visionary Grammy-nominated producer and DJ Steve Aoki, I think that's how it's pronounced, and with Jim Kruger.
He was spotlighted at the beginning of the catalog. You know that Indie Edge thing at the beginning of the catalog? He was spotlighted there.
Oh, okay.
Issue, yeah.
Oh, and on the facing page, there is some examples of the interiors, and they don't look bad. I'll have to think about it. I might ask my shop to get me an issue, because it's sure not to show up on the stands by itself.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. On page 340, there's a graphic novel of The Handmaid's Tale. I guess that was inevitable, right? With the popularity of the show.
Right.
Bringing Margaret Atwood's novel to the sequential art stage. On page 341, The Rolling Stones in Comics. There are 21 stories in comics form talking about the rich biography of the Rolling Stones' 50-year history. various artists.
And there's the Tick coloring book on the same page.
There it is. And talk about French comic books from NBM Publishing. There's a book called Equinoxes and a book called Portugal, both hardcovers, about $40 a piece, from Cyril Pederosa. And I have to admit it, I'm not going to spend $40 on the book, but the solicit does look a little interesting, and I have had some interest in some foreign books lately. So things like that, they spark, they catch my attention. I don't necessarily buy them all because, they could be all pricey. But I call them to your attention, dear listeners, just in case you have some extra money to spend.
We always have more money to spend.
Mm-hmm.
I marked on page 358 something that I've often thought about getting and never have pulled the trigger on, but digging deep into the previews reminded me of it. It's the 2000 AD March pack. So if you want to get 2000 AD in the United States, you have to order it as a monthly pack of 4 weekly comics. And so you get it once a month. And I always feel like, well, with my love of comics, I really should be, if I have access to this famous British comics magazine, I ought to be getting it. But and it's $22 for the pack, and I would get a 25% discount at my shop. But it's harder for me to pull the trigger on the whole pack instead of getting weekly issues,
right,
at the same price, divided up by 4 or 5. So anyway, I don't know. I should do it. I don't know why I resist. It'd be fun just to read 2000 AD for a year or something.
Just do it, Damian.
Just do it.
And then you can tell me how it was. I'm going to jump back a couple pages from that, or a few pages from that. 344, this is from Oni Press, Morning in America by Magdalene Visaggio and Claudia Aguirre. I'm sure I mispronounced that. I apologize. From Kim and Kim. I just read Visaggio's Eternity Girl and loved it.
Yeah, I like that too.
So, like I said, so they say it's a miniseries. I like the Brian Edward Hill blurb here about it. Part Nancy Drew, part Stranger Things, part Sex Pistols, and punk rock. Morning in America turns suburbia upside down with beautiful art and characters that jump off the page. The end of the world is here, and it's a damn good book.
I was attracted by that cover, and then on the following facing page is the interior art, and it kind of made me change my mind not to get it.
I kind of like it.
Okay. Well, just for me, to my taste.
Yeah.
That's right. We have 3 different tastes right here on this on the show today. I like it.
So, do you think you're going to get Morning in America?
Well, I'll probably get the trade.
Oh, that's good too.
But Visaggio is definitely on my radar now in terms of whatever she puts out.
Right. In fact, going forward again to page 361 from a publisher called Self-Made Hero. 2 books. One is called Blossoms in Autumn. It's a graphic novel. It's a soft cover at $25. But it's about people in their late 50s, early 60s finding each other after one gets widowed and the other one is alone for reasons not portrayed here in the solicit. But now that I'm getting older, stories like this interest me. So that caught my eye. And right below it, on page 361, Guantanamo Kid, the true story of Muhammad El Garani, the youngest one of the youngest detainees in Guantanamo Bay, supposedly a true story about somebody who was detained over on Guantanamo, and another $25 book, soft cover. Just things like this are interesting to me because everybody's only talking about, they're only talking about Green Lantern or Batman or Superman or Spider-Man and stuff, and things like this I think need attention. There's an audience out there for it, and if all anybody's talking about are the typical superhero books and maybe your stray Image book or a stray Dark Horse book, I think a lot of these things just fly by the wayside. And maybe if it catches somebody's attention who listens to the show, Eric, you have a lot of listeners here, maybe other people can find these books and they'll find their audience and we'll get more of them.
Yeah, I like the, Blossoms in Autumn. I've often thought about the fact, because I'm in my late 50s, that most fiction is aimed at people and experiences of people under 40. There's a lot less fiction aimed at, life experience after the age of 50.
But when you consider how much of the market is in our demographic,
right?
We do need more books like that. I read a book called Wrinkles, and that was basically about somebody who has Alzheimer's. Everybody talks about triggers. One of my triggers, Alzheimer's disease. But I read an entire graphic novel about it and was moved. I mean, some people throw around, oh, I was weeping the entire time or made me cry or whatever. I don't really think people cry as much as they say sometimes when they read books, but Wrinkles really affected me in a way that, a lot of other people just, I think, throw around in their reviews, oh, I was crying every other page. I don't really think you were crying every other page in a particular book, but Wrinkles could make somebody cry. And on page 374, something I have read already, this is a resolicit. It is called Comic Book Implosion. It tells about that period of time in the 70s where there was the DC explosion that was very short-lived, followed by the implosion that everybody talks about 40 years later.
Yeah, I have that book circled. I somehow missed that I marked it here. And I also have circled Jack Kirby Collector number 76. I always get the Jack Kirby Collector. This issue is fathers and sons. It's focused on fathers and sons. That DC. I've always found fascinating the whole DC implosion.
It's a good read. It's an oral history book, like most of those types of books are. Very good read.
Cool. I'm glad you endorse it. I will definitely get that. I order Tomorrow's books directly from Tomorrow's because then you get a digital edition along with your physical edition. I like having that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So you order it, and if it's already in print, you immediately get the digital edition. And I always put those on my tablet. And then so I often read part of them on tablet, part of them on in the physical. It's also they're fun books for me to read when I'm on a long airplane ride or something somehow.
All right, I know I had some deep cuts there. What about you guys?
I think I'm out of deep cuts. I mean, I also had marked some Valiant, but we already talked about the Toyota Harada. They also have this book called Forgotten Queen that I'm kind of curious about, but it's already on issue 2 here. But of course, it hasn't come out yet. I guess it'll be coming out in February. So I might check that out if I can find it at a store. Written by Teenie Howard. This person, Teenie Howard, is kind of exploding all over the place. She's writing that Conan book at Marvel. And I'm eyeing the Exo Man of War Deluxe Edition hardback, even though I have all the paper,
double dipping. That's what they count on.
I probably won't double dip on that, but I'm slightly tempted.
Anything else?
Nothing else for me.
Yeah, I'm done too.
Well, we can't close a show without talking about this month in manga titles. And I only have one this month on page 418. No matter how I look at it, it's you guys' fault I'm not popular, volume 13.
13 volumes of that. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Wait, that is it.
I'm looking at 416, and I ran into a book called Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon?
Yeah, I think we've talked about that one before, yeah.
My youth romantic comedy is wrong, as I expected. Volume 10.
It's amazing.
I have not gotten into manga yet.
No, actually, that's something I would like to know if any of the listeners are still listening to this episode at this point. Give me some manga recommendations.
I'll give you one, but it's on my bookshelf. I'm reading one, and because of one of the words I can't pronounce it, but I will tell you what, I will tweet about it. I will take a picture of it and I will tweet it to you. It's the only manga I am reading.
Okay.
So watch out, folks, at George and Tony on Twitter. Watch out. And Eric, I know on the flip side, you got on page 32, you're going to order the DC Designer Series Nightwing statue by Jim Lee for $150.
Yeah, I'm good.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
All right. Well, how about the Golden Girls Pez dispensers on page 59?
I think you're confusing me with you, George.
Oh, okay. I guess I'm really, really happy that they're back now that the holidays are over and the Hallmark Christmas movies are done. What about the Beatles vinyl figures from the Yellow Submarine on page 68? No? Again, that's me, not you?
I think so, yeah.
Damian, can you help me out here? Is it just me?
It's just you.
Okay.
For me, the Beatles are limited to their albums.
Okay. Well, that's all I have.
All right.
But I have to either thank you guys or blame you because I knew I was doing this show with you. Mm-hmm. I dug deeper into previews than normal, and I have added a lot more comics to my pull list.
You're welcome.
We didn't. I actually didn't mention all of them, but maybe it's because some of them were not number ones. But I just have a list here that I sent to after reading this previews that I sent to my shop. Included something called Oberon from Aftershock. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I added Edgar Allan Poe's Snifter of Terror, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, something called Jungle Comics from Antarctic Press. Now I can't remember what that was and why I added it. And Neon Future. I did put Neon Future on my pull list. And Grand Abyss
to hear what you have to say about that one. Yeah.
And The Freak. So normally I don't get much further than, Image and Aftershock, or sometimes I usually don't even find my way to Aftershock. Because it's such a huge catalog.
It is.
And it kind of seems a shame to me that some of these publishers like Aftershock and Valiant are near the back of the book. They aren't along with Dark Horse and Boom and Dynamite. I'm not quite sure what, I guess it's amount of sales or something that puts them towards the front of the book.
I would expect.
Well, what I like about our show here when we do this together is there are other podcasts out there, believe it or not, that talk about previews every month also. Of course, they're probably about half to a third shorter than this show.
Because they aren't as strong as you and Eric.
Well, they don't dig as deep. I mean, everybody can talk about Heroes in Crisis, but who's going to talk about The Freak? You know what I mean? And I think some listeners of Eric's might be interested in something like The Freak. But if they only listen to these other podcasts, they're really only talking about mainstream stuff. And there's way more than that out there. And I'm buying more of that than what is considered mainstream.
Yeah. It's a huge chore. Well, not chore, but it's kind of a delight to go through, but it's a huge thing to look through.
There's that one Wednesday a month that I look forward to more than any of the others.
Wednesday. I spend 2 or 3 days going through the catalogs.
No, I meant picking it up when it's previews day during that month. I love it.
All right, gentlemen. I think we're done, right?
Yeah, yes. This was definitely a marathon episode. Yeah, this was awesome. Yeah.
And I feel once again, a little tired by now.
Yeah. This one's for you, Sergeant America.
That's right. Okay, well, let's get out of here then and go to bed.
Well, thanks so much for letting me piggyback on your show, be the third wheel for an episode.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Damian. It was a pleasure going through your recommendations as well, and appreciate you setting aside the time to do this with George and myself. George, you have any final thoughts before we leave?
No, I'm good. Thank you for indulging me, listeners, whenever I come on the show here with my digressions. Oh, and Damian, it was a pleasure to finally meet you.
It was a pleasure to meet you too. I'm a big fan, especially when you say dynamite.
I would have done it this time, but my wife's sleeping at this point, so I didn't want. I'm already probably keeping her up as it is.
Well,
you got to save it so that people don't take it for granted.
That's right.
Anyway,
that's right.
That's right. We do have to skip a couple of months. Don't worry.
I could end
pull
with
it
a
out.
screaming goat. Here's
go.
my screaming goat. Well, it's really a visual thing to see this little toy goat and then hear it scream.
That thing makes me laugh every time. Okay, well, let's get out of here before we get even more punchy than I think we already are. Damian, why don't you remind the fine folks out there where they can find you online and what they can listen to or watch that you're involved with?
Yes. If you like comics, please subscribe to my podcast that I do with my friend Matt, which is called Never Stay Dead, which you can find on iTunes or elsewhere. And you can follow me on YouTube. I do a ton of comic book related videos there. On Sleepy Reader 666 is the name of my channel. And you can also follow me on Twitter at Sleepy Reader 666, where I post a lot of little tidbits about comics and argue with people like Eric on Twitter. Well, argue's the wrong word.
I was going to say, yeah.
Chatter.
We chat.
There are some people I argue with. Probably Matt.
Yeah, that's right. Poor Matt. He's getting short shrift here. All right. And George, where can they find you and chat you up?
Well, currently on Facebook, it's George and Tony Entertainment. I'm finally getting back on Facebook a little more than usual, but Twitter is my main social media outlet, and that is simply George and Tony, which may be under construction soon. I'll drop a hint over here that I am going to be in talks with potential future co-hosts of a new show, perhaps. More to come, so the George and Tony moniker might change on Twitter, but keep an eye out.
Yeah, looking forward to that, George.
Yeah, of course, now that I said it, it'll all get screwed up and it'll be George and Tony till 2025.
You could become George without Tony. That could be your moniker.
Mm-hmm.
George no Tony.
It's going to be very weird to be George without Tony. George without Tony, that might be the new way to do it.
All righty. Well, thank you both again for joining me on this lovely previews episode. And if the listeners would like to provide any feedback or suggestions for us for things that you found that you think we might be interested in, you can do so by emailing me at longboxreview@gmail.com. You can leave comments at the blog longboxreview.com, or you can chat me up on Twitter at longboxreview. So go order some comics. And
tell us about your book club experiences. I'm still interested.
and screaming goats. And so with that, we will leave you, and I will talk to you later.